Are the engineers Welcome in. It's Thursday afternoon. Thank you for joining us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertivant. Carlene Bragg is here in the building. Carlene, it has been a busy morning, busy afternoon.
Busiest one in a while.
Busiest morning in a while. A lot to get to. So don't go anywhere. Stick with us here on Live Impact News, WCNC Plus. And we want to start with some breaking news that we are following out of North Charlotte. This is a live look at the scene. So right now, CMPD is conducting a death investigation in North Charlotte. The death was reported on the 2300 block of Sanders Avenue this morning. So, all right, this is what we have on our website. Please head to our website for a full look at this web article, but I want to read it for you. So the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department is investigating a death in North Charlotte on Thursday morning. This morning, police said the incident happened, again, on Sanders Avenue. CMPD has not yet released details about the victim or what led to the death. This is an ongoing investigation, but as you can see there, it looks like a neighborhood is taped off. You see CMPD there. Again, we have a live camera there, also a reporter on the scene. We'll have more updates and additional updates as soon as we get them. And again, limited information from CMPD. All we know so far, a death investigation underway there in North Charlotte as CMPD is conducting that investigation. All right. Again, more on that coming up later in the stream. But we want to move on to another breaking story that we broke here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, and it's this one. We've been following this case since the very beginning. NASCAR this morning settling its federal antitrust case filed by two of its teams, one owned by Michael Jordan. So this is according to AP News. NASCAR reached a settlement Thursday on the bruising antitrust lawsuit filed against the stock car series by two of its race teams, including one co-owned by NBA great Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan said, quote, "Today's a good day," Jordan said as he waited in the gallery for attorneys to announce the deal. Details were not immediately released. Going into today was the 9th day of that trial. 2311, which is owned by Denny Hamlin, also Michael Jordan. Front Row Motorsports filed their lawsuit last year after refusing to sign agreements on the new charter offers NASCAR presented in September of 2024. Teams had until the end of the day to sign the 112-page document, which guarantees access to top-level Cup Series races and revenue stream. And 13 of 15 organizations reluctantly agreed. Jordan and Jenkins, Bob Jenkins, owner of Front Row, sued instead and raced most of the 2025 season unchartered. Again, just spilling over into a trial. Today was the 9th day. It was supposed to wrap up tomorrow, but they have a deal, a settlement. We heard from Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin, co-owners of 2311 Racing. Let's take a listen into what they had to say moments ago.
I mean, like two competitors, obviously we're trying to get as much done in each other's favor, but I think, collectively, and I don't think Jim was any opposite of me, was the fans has always been the best, solution to this whole process and to the sport itself. The only way that, and I've said this from day one, the only way this sport is going to grow is we have to find some synergy between the two entities, and I think we've gotten to that point. Unfortunately, it took 16 months to get here, but I think, level heads have got us to this point to where we can actually work together and grow this sport. I'm very proud about that, and I think Jim feels the same.
Jim?
I do feel the same. We can get back to focusing on what we really love, and that's racing. We spend a lot of time, and then not really focused on that so much as we need to be. So I feel like we made a very good decision together, and we have a good opportunity to continue growing the sport. We've got Denny Hamlin getting ready to go for the championship, and we need to focus on what we all love.
What was the impetus that made it today and not earlier?
Level heads. In all honesty, when you get to the finish line, sometimes you have to think, not just for yourself, but you got to think about the sport as a whole. And I think both parties got to that point, and we realized that we could have an opportunity to settle this. and we dove in and we actually did it. You know, unfortunately, it took us that long, but we got here. That's all that matters.
I mean, do you feel like it was worth it?
Well, I mean, both parties feel like it's worth it because we understand we had to work together. I mean, compromise in every negotiation is one of the toughest things that you can do. And I think that you can say that we both compromised on both of our agendas. And I think we both come to the conclusion that it's better for us.
There's so much family history wrapped up here, not just for you, Mr. France, but also for you, Mr. Jordan. Can you talk about just what it means to you from a legacy point of view?
Well, I grew up watching his father build this sport. You know, I didn't want to have to tear it down. I don't think he wanted to be pulled down, but I think on the calmer circumstances, we actually voiced what our interests may have been, you know, collectively. And at the end of the day, we reached some type of compromise. And to me, that's in every negotiation. That's in every, you know, agreement. And I'm very happy we stand on this step to move forward as opposed to moving separate.
What were the other terms of the
I think
settlement?
that's, guys, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Let's go
Thank you
race.
very much. Okay.
Go to Bubba Gray. Go to Daytona.
Yeah. Everybody show up at the tracks.
Nerving part about it, but it was good to be able to kind of tell the story and kind of the backstory of you know my history in the sport and certainly my passion for it. You know, this doesn't happen unless I've got a fire to really help and grow this sport, and that's what we did today.
I don't mean to be rude, Danny, but there were some things that came out in the discovery here that were a little difficult between you and the business partners. Do you feel like you'll be able to move forward amicably?
Oh yeah, it's a marriage. I mean, any marriage you got to have. If I didn't have people having checks and balances on me, then I'd do everything I could to win races. And so you always need people within a company to make sure that everyone's the business is running properly, and that's essentially what we were trying to protect with this lawsuit, is to essentially make sure that this team's here for the long run.
Will this change anything for you? Will this change anything for you? Will you run race for 2311 instead of Joe Gibson?
No, I got a contract with Gibbs that will for the next 2 years, and now thankfully I can focus on that.
Thank y'all. We got to go, Bob.
What's that?
Where did you guys compromise?
We can't talk about that.
Jordan
Yeah.
said that both sides compromised. You guys got the evergreen charters. I'm just curious, like, what did you guys?
I feel like everything within the settlement is going to grow the sport, and it's going to be better for everyone. There's no doubt about it.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right, you heard it there. That's Denny Hamlin. Also, you heard from Michael Jordan and their attorney. Again, a settlement has been reached in the legal battle between NASCAR and two race teams over antitrust allegations. Those teams, Michael Jordan's and Denny Hamlin's 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports, securing what they've been pushing for seemingly all along, which permanent charters, which is NASCAR's version of franchises.
Yes.
Just to, put it out there.
Put
I
in
know,
plain terms.
Yeah.
Charters are kind of hard to explain, but that's,
Yeah.
I think, the best way for people who might not know or looking outside
Yeah.
into the sport, that's the best way to explain it. It's like a franchise.
Right, and their accusation was, NASCAR was acting like a monopoly,
Correct.
Essentially. All right, so we'll have more on this throughout the stream
We
again.
have so many questions about it.
So many questions, and we don't exactly know what's in the settlement.
No.
Our Miles Harris is working to get that information. Again, he's running around, so we're working to get him. But again, we'll continue to follow this story as it develops. And as Carlene, we just talked about the season, a couple of months away.
A couple months away.
So yeah, this
Things
story
are about to change.
Story not going anywhere anytime
Right.
soon. Stick with us here on WCNC Plus. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. All right, welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Cerdovic. Carlene is also here in studio. All right, so we got some big news. It is a big day, a new chapter for a local station here. Charlotte's oldest broadcast station is leaving AM radio dial after more than 100 years. Beginning today, WBT News Talk will move to a new home at 107.9 FM through the end of the year. So we got some special guests, and I got details here, but I got questions to ask them, so I'm not going to spoil it. You know the show, Good Morning BT, with Bo Thompson and Beth Troutman. We have Bo and Beth here in studio. Thank you guys for joining us.
Hi, we're so excited to be here.
Oh, Beth has a whole fan club.
She walked in here like she owns the place.
I'm like, I had a couple of people ask, you know where Beth is? You know where? I'm like, I don't know. I think she's somewhere around here.
I used to roam these halls about a decade ago, so it was weird to come back in. It was the first time I had been back in the studio in a while, but I walked in and it felt exactly the same. Exactly the same. Although I haven't been into the studio. I think when I was anchoring the evening news, I think that studio was a little bit different than it is now. It's been a while.
I guess, how are you guys doing today? It's a big day for the station.
It's a bittersweet day in some ways, and I'll tell you why, just so people understand. WBT AM has been around since 1922. And today is the day when we convert or take our signal to an FM signal that is 107.9, like you said. We've been on 99.3 for several years, several decades actually. But this is the first time we've been on a signal which is, I mean, it's the most powerful FM signal in this area. So it's a big move for us because we've been one place for generations. And we can talk a little bit, I'm sure, about why they made the move, but it's a big deal for us because a lot more people, just this morning we did our show, and a lot more people, it was evident, were on board.
Yeah, we got to, we have a text line, which is one of the best things about doing radio. You know, after a 20-some-year TV career, having instant interaction with your listeners is so much fun, and we probably got 1,000 texts over the course of this morning with people joining us on the FM signal for the first time, people who were hearing the show for the first time but felt compelled to write in. But the fact that this move really moves this station into the future. And it allows us, we've been around for 103 years, and it allows us to be around for 103 more because as technology has changed, I mean, any car that you buy now doesn't even have, my car doesn't have an AM dial. It doesn't have the ability to access. So people today were writing in saying, oh my gosh, I'm commuting and I'm finally excited. I have you programmed in on my car and not listening to you on the app or, you know, listening on a radio at home in the kitchen that had an AM dial. So that part of it is really fantastic for us because we get to continue doing what we desperately love doing, and we get to do it with a bigger listening family. And they can connect with us and connect with each other in a bigger way. And hopefully that means we've been doing this together for 4 years. Hopefully we'll be doing it on this broadcast signal for the next 30. Right?
That's the goal.
Sounds good, right?
And she mentioned the fact that, you know, some cars don't come with AM bands anymore, and the ones that do, we find often that a lot of times the younger generation, even if they have a car that has an AM radio in it, they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And as much as I love AM, I mean, that's been my whole career. I want to be in the place where if this station is going to continue to be relevant and to be what it has been, a place where we've got to take it to where people or the most people are.
Yeah.
And I think this is the way to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, what is the role of radio now? Because it is, and it continues to evolve, but it's an important job. What would you say is the role of radio, especially in the news space?
I think connectivity. I think people are, especially now, given the political climate, given the feeling of division that is palpable across the nation, what we are capable of doing, especially with the kind of show that Bo and I do, we're capable of bringing people together. We're capable of not only sharing ideas, but sharing really personal stories and having a real, genuine, unscripted conversation that For us, when we're talking about news, it's based in fact, not based in opinion. We're not out there trying to throw flames or make people feel agitated. We want people to go out into their days and feel positive and feel good and feel joyful and feel connected to their community.
Yeah.
And because it's a live medium, because people, like I was saying just a minute ago, can connect with us in the moment, it, I think, makes information less intimidating and potentially, and this is what our hope is, potentially bridges that gap that people are feeling between each other, that we want to bring have a space where people can share their ideas, share their opinions. They're not going to be judged. They're not going to be attacked, especially live on the air, and that they can connect with each other and find reasons to celebrate. I mean, Charlotte is such a great city, but the surrounding area is remarkable as well. And some people hear news stories about Charlotte and they think Charlotte's the scary place. And some people hear stories about the outskirts of Charlotte and they think, oh, I don't want to go out there because I'm not going to fit in or my views aren't going to be accepted. And what really we're learning is that we're all humans who are just trying to do the best that we can, and we're looking for people who make us feel accepted and feel good, but also feel informed and feel entertained and welcome.
Like local radio personalities, they're like family.
Yeah.
Like I remember I grew up in the High Point, Greensboro area. I used to listen to 102 Jams. And so I felt like I knew Kyle Santillan, beat out. Like I felt like I knew those people. Do you feel like that with listeners?
We said it on the air this morning. Today was our first day on 107.9, and I said several times, if you're just joining us, because it's not, we didn't launch a new show today.
No.
We've been doing this show for 4 years in its current form, and so we are all, I said, we're like family.
Yeah.
It's an ensemble type show. We all sort of have stories that we tell, and so we came on the air, and I told Beth before we went on, I said, I want to make sure that we go in this on two ways. We're speaking to a group of people that have helped us get to where we are, and over the course of the last 4 years, we've been the #1 show in the market several times.
Yeah.
On the strength of just our AM signal. So we have a lot of listeners that have been part of our family and are very important to us. But we also knew that we woke up this morning and we're on a signal that there are a lot of people waking up going, well, who are these people? Wait a minute. And our task is to say, wait a minute, before you go away, we got to tell you what we are. And we don't play music as a rule like a music station would, but we play songs from time to time. But the great thing is that we really get to do everything. And there aren't many formats, radio or TV, where you have a 4-hour show, and we of course have commercials like commercial broadcasting has, but we, on any given day, it may be a huge news breaking story, it may be weather, it may be the Panthers, it may be sports, politics, entertainment. I mean, it goes all the way down, and we basically go where the story is. And we always say we have short attention spans. so if we get bored, we just move on to something else, right?
And the cool thing, like you said, that you feel like you get to know radio people. We are genuinely really good friends, and the team that we in that studio together, we're genuinely good friends. And one of our ads even says we don't know we have microphones. It's just us hanging out, talking and laughing, but also having the serious conversations when the news story takes us that direction, or having studies suggest that the best of friends rip on each other. That's like a love language, and we do.
And it's different from years ago. I can say that. I feel like I'm old enough to say that. Where you feel like you had to be very serious when it comes to news.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily. You can. I think people understand that you can flip the switch from being silly, goofy, jokey to okay, all right, it's time to get serious. I think people understand that.
Well, and we said this today too on the air. There are days when, and you all know this as well as anybody, where all of a sudden you think you know what you're going to do, and a breaking news story happens, and sometimes it may be a very serious story, and we go into sort of what we call wall-to-wall breaking news mode, and we can do that.
Yeah.
But we also, I mean, the days we live for are the days when sort of all things are equal, and we're back. And you mentioned like 102 Jams and some of these other shows that you can think of that you loved. We basically say, like Beth said, it's best when it sounds like we're having a conversation, that somebody walked into the room and decided to mic up, as opposed to sitting down saying, we're going to talk into the microphone and do this radio show. You know what I mean? So.
It's such a fun experience to get to have something that's completely unscripted and really authentic. And I think you really hit on it, that people are aware now of how three-dimensional you can be. I think social media, oddly, in ways that it has been sometimes negative, has helped with that, because people can sense now what's authentic and what isn't. And I think it's a feeling that people get. And I think that that's why now people are getting more accepting of this idea that it doesn't have to be, serious and buttoned up and written down and all the time.
Yeah, but like I always say, like some of my first news experience was watching Dan Rather grow. I love Dan Rather, but very serious guy, and I'm like, I think I got to be that. I got to be serious all the time, and I don't, because I'm not a. Carlene can tell you, I'm not that serious.
Well, I can tell you, I worked at WBT long enough that I was working there when we were a CBS radio affiliate for a while. Dan Rather, it's interesting you say how serious he seemed, because he is. I mean, there's that famous where he experimented for a while where he would sign off his newscast and he'd say, Dan Rather, courage. And some people may think I'm crazy, but look it up on YouTube. You'll see what I'm talking about. But Dan Rather also loved radio, and Dan Rather would call, the anchor of the CBS Evening News would call WBT periodically to be on the morning show, and he would do it with other CBS radio affiliates. But I always thought that was cool, because there's a guy that you think is one way, and he was pretty buttoned up on TV, but he also has a respect and an admiration for this other medium, which obviously we love. And Beth now, Beth was in TV, and I've converted her to a radio person, and that's probably my claim to fame, if anything.
Like you, I was anchoring the 4, the 5, the 6, and the 11 o'clock news here at WCNC, and as you can tell, I'm not a buttoned-up serious person either. And I used to, get in trouble because I would touch my co-anchor, and they're like, Beth, you're making the viewers uncomfortable. You're being too, or I'd emote, or I'd find things funny, or and all of those things exist in this space now with Bo. And I have to give WCNC a shout out too, because I actually would not know Bo had it not been for the fact that I was an anchor here. I was in Rio covering the Olympics for WCNC, and Bo Thompson was doing the Bo Thompson Morning Show at WBT Radio, and reached out to me. I always say he slid into my DMs on Twitter, but he was just messaging me saying, hey, I'd love to have a local flair of the Olympics in Rio. And I saw the message, and so I texted him back, and I said, yeah, sure, I'll do one interview with you. That'd be fine. And I only got cell reception by this dumpster that was like behind the Video Village or the Olympic Village. And so I'm standing beside a dumpster, and we do this 15-minute radio hit, and we had this instant chemistry, just this back and forth that was totally natural. And instead of just doing one interview, we ended up doing a segment every single day that I was down there.
Wow.
And it's how we met each other, is because of this building that I'm sitting in right now. And so walking in here today, I got really emotional, because it was this beautiful full circle moment that life sometimes gives you these gifts. And I had that moment today walking back in here, because WCNC is what brought me back to Charlotte. I was living out west. This is my home. I was born and raised in Concord. And they brought me back to Charlotte at a time when my mother was battling cancer. I came back to take care of her, and she passed away, and life changed and shifted. And it's all of that story that you sometimes think are the worst moments in life bring you to some of the most beautiful gifts that you could possibly imagine. Because I was never thinking about radio, wasn't a thing that was in my brain.
It's funny how life works.
Right.
We should also mention that when we came in here today, who do we see but Larry Sprinkle, who's like the mayor around here.
Maybe governor. I don't know.
He's come on our show several times, and as a kid who grew up in Charlotte, being fascinated with radio, and Beth growing up in Concord, I know that Larry has this incredible history here. But before that, he was one of the best talents in all of Charlotte radio. And every time I see him, I say, you've got like this whole gear that you don't even use half the time anymore. But when he comes in and sits with us, we just kind of sit back and watch the master. Because, so Larry, seeing Larry walking in here today, kind of like Beth saying walking in here was nostalgic and emotional for her. When I see Larry, I say, out of all the days to see somebody, I was really glad to bump into him.
Before I get you guys out of here, it's not a new show, but obviously a different. It's on FM. How do you find your footing? I know that's got to be tricky because look, I mean, you're talking to a new audience. You're talking to loyal listeners. How do you find that footing of, all right, we've been here, but we still got to introduce ourselves to a new audience?
That was the challenge today, actually, and it's the challenge going forward. As I said, I'm kind of caught in the middle a little bit because I started working at WBT when I was 16 years old. When I was in high school.
So you're 25.
Exactly right.
You're good at it.
I just crossed the 50-yard line, basically.
Oh, okay.
And so this station, this AM 1110, has been my professional life.
Yeah.
And so I have so many colleagues and so many memories over the years, and I love the AM band, but I also know, being a lifelong radio guy, that if I want WBT, the legendary brand, to continue, it's got to be where people are, and it's got to be at a place that carries it into modern times. And so I'm sad on one hand. I've said this a million times the last 2 days. I'm sad, but on the other hand, I'm ecstatic because I know that this brand that we are still the stewards of, I know that by what we started today, we have a new lifeline that's going to carry us, I think, well into the future. And so today, the challenge was, hey, thanks to all the people that brought us to the table, but also, hey, all of you that are listening for the first time, man, I can't wait to tell you and bring you into this group because it's what we do every day that we love.
And I said, we had this conversation, we were talking on, as if we don't talk to each other enough during the course of the day. We were talking on the phone on the way in this morning at 5 a.m. and we were just talking about is our goal, and it's our method. Just be us, just be who we are as people, and let that come through. And don't alienate the people who have been with us all of this time. Bring the other people in with, love and kindness and fun and all of the things that we do, all the things that we talk about. We made it a point, fist bumping right before the show. It's like, let's just be us. Let's just do what we do, and hopefully people will feel the joy that we feel because we love what we do, and we hope that comes across to people. And I think that's how you bridge that gap and how you find your footing. Because we love it, it's easy to hopefully make people feel welcome in it and attracted to it.
One last thing I would add is that we celebrated 100 years back in 2022. And we had the Centennial Celebration, and it was a huge event. We did it at the Halton Theater at CPCC and brought back just hundreds of alums dating not back to 1922, but some people that date back pretty far.
Yeah.
And I always can know that we did that and know that we gave the station its proper 100th birthday. And so, like I said, we want to continue into modern times, but as far as the AM band goes, I can go to sleep at night knowing that we did everything we possibly could to give it that moment, because there are not many stations in the country that are around that long. I mean, some formats are gone after a year. Yeah. And yet we, those call letters, those famous WBT call letters, made it to 100 on the AM band, 103, and now by virtue of this FM move, now we got a lot of open road ahead, which I'm excited about.
And still available for the time being on 11:10 a.m., right?
Through the end of the month. I think January 7th is the last day. The station will still own 11:10. Yep. The content, it'll still be WBT AM. The content will change, but we're giving people a time to find their footing and figure out where to program their dials for a few weeks.
I call this studio the neighborhood. You guys are welcome back anytime here in the neighborhood.
We're going to take you up on that.
I'll be back tomorrow.
Okay, all right. We'll book them. Let's book them. All right, Joe Security, book him. He's not here. But, all right, Bo Trout.
Ooh, you can call him Bo Troutman. That's how he works.
How do I know this is going to find its way, this audio, on our show tomorrow morning?
It's going to, see, they got me. Beth Troutman, Bo Thompson. Good morning, BT. You can catch them 107.9 FM Thank you guys for stopping in studio. It was a pleasure. You guys are great. I kind of want to do fist
I
bump
can
too.
fist bump
We
you
can-
too.
yeah.
I can't reach you. My arms aren't long enough. I can't get there. I'll hug you when all this is done.
She'll hug you for 20 minutes.
Yeah, it'll be awkward. Just wait. Just watch out.
All right, let's head to break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
All good?
Congrats, guys. And then, oh yeah, delivery, I forgot.
It's been so long.
Okay. Congratulations.
Have y'all ever met each other? Do you guys know each other? The Thompsons, the Thompson boys?
Say we confuse each other all the time. What time, this is probably going back like years. Andy Doolin was like, hey, we still going this morning? Andy, what are we doing? He's like, well, I'm ready to go anytime. And I'm like, Andy, great, I love you. I was like, I don't, like, I'm clearly
Like, I don't do Flashpoint
I'm
anymore.
clearly like not following what you're wanting right now. And then he's like, oh.
I called the wrong BT.
exactly
You know you can come do the show because it's BT, BT, and
BT? Oh,
Like,
it's
you
not,
can
it's not
totally-
lost on me. We need to do this. It's not lost on me.
You actually would be hilarious. You
Yeah,
can
I
come
love it. Congrats, guys. That's huge. Like,
It's so much fun.
so rarely do you hear like something like this happening, in radio or TV either way. So, very exciting.
We had a good morning. It was exciting. Both of us felt a little bit exhausted after it was over because it was this whole ball of energy thing. 'Cause we
All right, welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. All right, it is cold today, another cold day outside, but it's about to warm up on Saturday. All right, let's take a full look at our forecast right now.
Well, good Thursday afternoon to you. I'm WCNC meteorologist. Majestic Storm. It has been a very winter-like start to the day for our good friends out in the mountains. We had more snow cover the ground from the storm system moving through late last night, early this morning. We've been monitoring for those slick and icy spots across our mountain counties. Meanwhile, in and around Charlotte, it's a whole different story. Today, it starts out chilly for everyone, but we finally get the return of sunny skies. It is a beautiful start to the day. It's been beautiful as we're heading into these early afternoon hours. And here's a few things you're going to want to know as we're now heading into the later half of our work week. Sunshine returns even this afternoon in the high country. In the high country today, it was frigid, feeling like you're into the teens and low 20s. Cloudy skies, snowy conditions, that wind will eventually die down, and then sunshine returns. 40s and 50s both today and tomorrow. Saturday, we have a big warm up on the way with temperatures climbing back into the 60s. So if you want to do something fun this weekend and those plans take you outside, maybe think about doing it on Saturday, because we do have some changes on the way. Sunday night and into Monday, let me tell you, a blast of cold Arctic air is heading our way. It's going to drop our temperatures down to dangerously cold conditions by Monday morning. Let's start with still the good news, though. This is the rest of the day today. We'll have plenty of sunshine to look forward to. Again, temperatures will be climbing mainly into the upper 40s for most of us, with sunny skies late this afternoon and a few clouds pushing through as we're heading into the overnight hours. Let's take you up into the mountains, because again, this is where that cold air is really settled in. This morning it felt like it was around 15 degrees. This afternoon, highs will struggle to even reach that freezing mark. Around 31 degrees in Blowing Rock, 47 in Morganton, mid 40s out in Lenoir. Sunny skies returning for our good friends out in Hickory as well. 49 in Gastonia, Lincoln 10, and then we'll look at about 49 degrees for our high temperature today in Charlotte. 50 out towards Monroe and 51 today there in Lancaster. Now we do have some changes on the way. Overnight tonight, a few more clouds start to push through the area. 20s and 30s, so a chilly start to our Friday morning, and this is what tomorrow looks like. So overall, pretty nice. A few clouds early in the day with more sunshine by mid-morning, early afternoon. But in the mountains, we could see a little bit more snow push through. So here's my futurecast about 5 o'clock tonight. Nice and dry. We shouldn't have any issues whatsoever. You can see nice clear conditions, but then heading into Friday morning, look at the mountains. Another opportunity for just a little bit of snow pushing through. There's 4 a.m. So if you're an early riser, you will be waking up to still snow-covered ground out towards the high country. For us, though, no snow in the forecast. Tomorrow, we're actually back into the 50s, so we're seeing improving conditions as we're looking at the remainder of our forecast. Sunny skies, get outside and enjoy it. This is what we're looking at over the next 7 days. Saturday is a day to enjoy, 60 degrees, because come Monday, look at that high temperature, 37 for our high. That's 18 degrees cooler than where we even should be. This is a blast of cold, bitter cold Arctic air. You can see it sweep through the south, and this is going to be that deep cold where when you wake up Monday morning, it is going to hurt. Temperatures will be into the teens, and those afternoon highs only rising really into the 30s. So Monday is going to be the day that you need to be ready for that big change with that cold, cold air on the way, even for the high country. 30s for most of us by Monday, but then again, we have another warming trend on the way. That warming trend again increases those temperatures to nearly 60 degrees by next week. Stay close to our weather team.
All right, so that's a look at our forecast. We'll have another check on the forecast just shortly. All right, so we want to get back to that big breaking story that we had earlier. A settlement has been reached in the legal battle between NASCAR and 2 race teams over antitrust allegations, with Michael Jordan's 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports securing what they've been pushing for all along. Our Miles Harris is outside of the courthouse. Been covering this since it broke this morning. I've been also keeping tabs. We've been talking about this trial in the newsroom. Miles, we heard from Michael Jordan. We also heard from Denny Hamlin. What can you tell us at this hour?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of talked about it though, Nick, but just the reaction coming out of that courtroom was a lot of smiles, especially from Team Jordan and his staff as far as coming out from this trial that lasted just about 9 days. So you kind of touched on a little bit about really where this lawsuit and this trial really stems from, disputes, disagreements, issues when it comes to NASCAR ownership and their charter rights, their financials, and the revenue shares that are going amongst teams throughout NASCAR. And so those are the questions that Jordan and his team, Jordan's 2311 NASCAR racing team had with NASCAR individually or all together really. And so again, coming out of the courtroom, they were able to settle. Now, as far as the details in that settlement, we have not been able to get that those details just yet. We're still working to kind of get some of that information. But again, a lot of smiles and positivity kind of coming out of the courtroom as they're both able to settle after this trial that again lasted about 9 days. But this dispute lasts over a year, nearly 16 months. That's what Jordan said, and he even mentioned that he was hoping to kind of get to this solution a little bit sooner when it comes to this back and forth between them and NASCAR. But again, a lot of positivity as they look forward to seeing really the impact and the growth coming from this settlement when it comes to NASCAR, and really a lot of questions when it came to the details with that settlement. But again, a lot of positivity and really a lot of potential when it comes to the growth amongst the sport and those team owners as well when it comes to NASCAR moving forward after this trial, Nick.
All right, that's Miles Harris. Miles, thank you for that report. You can catch Miles at 5 and 6 o'clock this evening. Again, a lot of eyes on this story. All right, Miles, thank you. All right, so let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. All right, let's get a check of the forecast. Chilly. I had it early. I couldn't sleep. Can I be real with y'all? I didn't sleep.
When are you
well.
not real with us?
Oh, okay, that's fair.
You always keep it real. I'm not saying it as a downer.
No.
I'm not trying to dig at you because it's something I love about you. But you're like, can I be real with you? Like, you're always.
You know, it's always the person that keeps it real. That said, can I be real?
Can I be real with you?
Can I be honest?
Like, girl, duh.
You've been doing this all the time. I didn't sleep well last night, so I got up early.
Neither.
I got up early, went to the gym, and
Sycamore put a statement on Instagram.
oh man, apologies.
Oh my word.
That was loud. That even shocked me. But that woke me up, so I'm awake now. But I had a hard time sleeping. And I woke up. I'm saying all this as I was en route to the gym. It's cold outside, Brittany.
It was cold outside. Wasn't as cold as it has been though.
Yeah, but I'm looking at Monday, and I'm like, I don't know if I should be running outside.
I mean, I think should versus will are two different things.
Is it smart for me to run outside?
It's not. I mean, truthfully, we don't oftentimes get cold that's dangerous enough to cause hypothermia or frostbite, but it would be extremely uncomfortable if you ran Monday morning.
So treadmill it is.
I would say if it was me, I'd be inside. But also, if it was 32, I'd be inside. So I think it's a little bit of a different story. That is definitely the next time that we're keeping folks weather alert because of that cold air that we are going to see. But before it gets here, we actually have pretty relatively nice weather over the next few days. Today was ahead of, or I guess today is already because it's only the early afternoon. This is what happens when you bop back and forth between working nights and working in the middle part of the day. Sunshine abundant today. Temperatures will reach the upper 40s and low 50s. What's interesting about the pattern is technically today is cooler than yesterday, but yesterday had the wind. So in terms of what it feels like, they're pretty even. Saturday we'll start to see a much bigger warm up on the way, and then we're looking at a bit of an Arctic blast, as Nick just mentioned, Sunday night and into Monday. So we could take graphics.
Sure.
I was about to say, I'm like sitting over here like, hello. There they are. Yay. There they are. Thank you, Carlene. Here you go. Sunday night again into Monday. That's what Nick was just referring to with that Arctic blast heading out the door. So Sunday night and into Monday, probably the first time since the end of February, I'd have to look exactly at the numbers, where we could actually see wind chills potentially here in Charlotte in the teens and even a few spots in the single digits. Before we get there, as I just showed you, a bit of a break from the craziness of the forecast. Really the only thing that's going to be changing over the next few days is another blast of snow potential up in the mountains. 0% chance of that here in the Charlotte area. So tonight we're right around freezing, and again, as Nick and I were just alluding to, if it was 33, I'd be running inside. I mean, personally, I never run outside, but that's a different story for a different day. So of course Monday morning going to be a much similar story. 20s up in the mountains. Tomorrow afternoon, again similar to today, we'll reach the 50s here in Charlotte, which will be closer to normal for this time of year. Still much colder, of course, up in the mountains, and here's the reason why. There's going to be a weak passing storm system that only impacts our parts of Ashwaubenon and Avery County. That's ahead of that cool down we see by the end of the weekend. So with this little burst of moisture, that's going to be that chance mainly Friday morning to see some snow up in those mountain communities. Now you'll see here from the snowfall potential map, it's pretty minimal for the first round, but a secondary round of snow possible by mid next week. So I wouldn't say it's going to be as substantial like what we had the other day with 7 inches up in parts of Ashwaubenon counties, but this does look like 2 rounds of maybe 1 to 2, maybe even 2 to 4 at a maximum, which I guess put together would be similar to what they had last time in just one day. So this weekend, again, Saturday is probably going to be the pick of the week, if not the pick of the last few weeks. 60 degrees and sunshine, temperature still cold in the morning. And again, you can see Sunday we'll start to see those clouds build, small chance of rain, but Sunday's probably going to be one of those days where we start to cool off throughout the day, unfortunately, instead of warm up. So as we look at futurecast temperatures, notice that we're still nice and warm on Saturday, but here comes the Arctic blast. There it is, starting to pour in from the north. You can see all of those areas of Montana, the Dakotas, into Minnesota, starting to push some of their nasty Arctic air into us here in the Charlotte area. So Sunday morning, all right, keep in mind, these are the afternoon temperatures. This is not wind chill, this is temperatures. So Sunday morning, 40 in Charlotte, okay, versus 10 a.m. as we're going out for brunch. Teens in the mountains. By the middle part of the day, we're looking at upper 20s and lower 30s. So just after sunset, it'll already be 29 in Charlotte, and up in the mountains, look at that, already seeing temperatures in the single digits. So whereas we'll be looking at the teens for wind chills Monday morning, they will be looking at wind chills below freezing. So here's your Monday morning early forecast. Right now, the forecast officially in Charlotte between 16 and 18 degrees. I'm splitting the difference, keeping us at 18 for the sake of this model. So 18 degrees for a futurecast temperature in Charlotte means it'll feel even colder than that. So again, wind chills up in the mountains below zero. We'll probably be looking at the single digit. So you will see this reflected as we look at our 7-day forecast in just a second. Forecast low again. Right now, we're sitting between 16 and 18 degrees. Oh, look at that. Chris did the math for me. I didn't even have to look it up. Look at that. Coldest, it would be the coldest since the end of February. Well, I guess I at least got the month right. 19 degrees back on February 21st. We had the same on January 23rd and then 18 on January 22nd. I think this also goes to show you that we don't get this cold that often based on the fact that there were only 3 days total of 2025 that were even below 20 degrees. So again, we get cold here in the Charlotte area, kind of just like we get nice and warm, but we don't have those absurdly significant heat index values like somewhere in South Florida, and we also don't have the same feels like temperatures in terms of the wind chill like somewhere up north. So here's that 7-day forecast. Again, we're keeping folks weather alert. It's Sunday night and into Monday morning. The reason why the second half of Sunday, again, is highlighted, you saw it there. Temperatures will cool off throughout the day with a lot of clouds instead of warming up. And then it's Monday morning that Nick will not be running outside. You can catch us here talking about that right now. And with the afternoon temperature, it's going to be probably the coldest afternoon too in months, because a high of only 37.
And here's what I do. Even on those 30-degree mornings, Brittany, I wear pants. I am not wearing the shorts. Brad tried to convince me. He was like, yeah, I'm like, I warm up, but not that much. I can't wear shorts.
Brad Panovich tried to convince you to wear shorts when it's 30 degrees.
Pretty much.
You just need to tell him that he can do what he wants, but Sturdivant can also do what he wants.
I wear pants with the zip up pockets, just like the shorts. But
it is true that you do warm up as you're running, but I don't know if I would say I'm warm enough to wear shorts.
Yeah, I'm not that.
You're not that guy.
I'm not that guy. I was about to say not that dedicated, but I am pretty dedicated.
You're very dedicated. You're just not that guy.
I'm not that guy. I can't do it.
Not all of us can be Brad.
Some people say it's restricting. It's it feels like you're carrying much more clothing. And I'm like, no, it's just I feel warmer.
Yeah.
I feel better.
Also, you have to keep in mind the fact that you're from the Carolinas. You're from the Carolinas. I'm from Georgia, and that man is from Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's got some different blood.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's got that cold ability to handle the cold.
He's born different. You know what I mean?
He was born that way.
But we're not supposed to have these frigid temperatures.
No.
That's not why I live
That's
here.
why I kept saying boo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's two thumbs down.
but 30s is normal.
Yeah,
so
30
is
is
normal.
short, but once you get to 16, 18,
100%. So
4 thumbs down.
Brad wants Nick to wear shorts when it's 30, but maybe not when it's 16. Is what I'm hearing.
Boo, Brad. No, I'm done. We love Brad. We love Brad.
We love Brad.
Brittany, thank you for stopping in.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We want to head now to the White House. What's happening right now, White House press briefing is underway. This is Caroline Leavitt, press secretary for the White House. Let's take a listen in to what she's saying.
Ahead as 2026 tax refund season is upon us after the holidays, and it's projected to be the largest ever thanks to President Trump's passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill. According to recent analysis from Piper Sandler, when Americans file their taxes early next year, their refunds could be about 1/3 larger than usual, or roughly an extra $1,000 per filer. That is money straight into the pockets of the American people. It's only because of President Trump and Republicans' leadership that Americans will now pay no tax on tips, overtime, and Social Security. President Trump and Republicans believe hardworking Americans deserve to keep more of their hard-earned money, but Democrats, on the other hand, every single one of them, voted against these massive tax cuts. So remember that the next time Democrats try to talk about affordability. Democrats don't have a single clue about how to make America more affordable. They just spent the last 4 years creating the very affordability crisis that President Trump is fixing right now. And if given the chance of power ever again, the Democrats will implement those same policies and jack inflation right back up to where it was. Finally, at the border, President Trump has restored America's sovereignty and made our country safe again. This is the single greatest and fastest national security victory in modern American history, and it's not even close. The latest preliminary numbers released from the month of November show we have the most secure border in our nation's history. This is a remarkable achievement. November encounters came in even lower than the previous historic low in October, if you can believe it. There were only 30,367 total encounters nationwide. That's lower than the previous record set in October. And for the 7th consecutive month, U.S. Border Patrol released 0 illegal aliens into the United States. Let me repeat. 7 months of 0 illegal aliens being released into our country. This is a historic achievement, and it's one that every law-abiding American citizen should be grateful for. At this point, in 10 months under President Trump's unmatched leadership, we've seen less apprehensions overall than we saw in just 1 month under Joe Biden. Again, let me repeat, in 10 months under President Trump, we've seen less apprehensions at the southern border than we saw in 1 month under the previous president. Again, remarkable results. All in all, the economy is back on track and ready to boom over the next 3 years. Biden's inflation crisis is over. Prices are coming down. Wages are rising. The border is fully secure, and America's best days are to come. President Trump has kept his word and delivered for the American people over the past year, and he will not stop fighting, as you heard from him directly this week, until our country and every state in this country is better than ever before. So with that, I will take your questions today. I know there's a lot of news. We'll start with our new media seat. Mr. Bowling, it's great to see you here. He's of Real America's Voice. He's also the host of Edge, his interview and commentary podcast. Please, Eric, why don't you kick us off?
Caroline, thank you very much for this and inviting me to the new media seat. As you point out, affordability crisis, it strikes me energy prices have been coming down aggressively since President Trump's second term, approaching $55 a barrel for oil, gasoline, as you point out, under $3 a barrel nationally, first time in 5 years. By the way, that $55 barrel oil is about half of the peak under the last 4 years of the last administration, half the price. Wholesale prices come down, yet affordability crisis, a lot of the folks in this room, a lot of legacy media, some of the people in the front row, seem to want to call this an affordability crisis right now, forgetting the fact that over the last 4 years prior, we hit 9% inflation. Wages, as you point out, have more stagnant at best, sometimes had dipped. That's a real affordability crisis there, but they weren't really calling it that then. You point out how President Trump is changing the affordability in America, but how will he ensure that the legacy media doesn't flip the script and change it so that they're using affordability as their word, their idea, versus what the American people who know much better?
Yeah, well, it's a great question, Eric, and it's a point of frustration for the president and for myself. I will say that's part of the reason I just kicked off this briefing today, setting the record straight with facts about the economic mess that the president inherited from his predecessor, Joe Biden. And he's focused on digging our country and our economy out of that hole every day. Things are getting better, and they will continue to. And President Trump understands better than any politician in this city the pain that the American consumer has been feeling for years now because of the last administration's policies. You heard him in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania this past week campaigning and talking to these voters saying, I was elected to fix this problem and I am fixing it. Don't forget who created it, and that's the Democrats. And I think when you hear the president talk about affordability, he's saying the Democrats are the greatest con artists in history because they are now trying to claim ownership of an issue that they created. And every data point and every economic metric does in fact show that the economy is improving. And so I do wish more people would report on those facts. I do wish that more people would remind the American public how we got here and why. It does not mean this president is discarding the feelings of the American people. He gets it better than anyone, which is why his entire administration has been focused on the issue of the economy and energy prices since day one.
If I may
Sure.
follow up. It's reported that around 10,000 commercial driver's license operators have been pulled by your transportation secretary department. Will the president apply that same metric? For the reason was the operators weren't speaking or reading English to a level that was safely, people thought they would safely be able to operate trucks on our roadways. It's estimated in California around 40% of Uber drivers, Uber and Lyft drivers, don't speak English proficiently, and the number's 45% in Minnesota.
All right, so welcome in. Thank you for joining us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Right now, you're watching live the White House press briefing. Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary for the White House, answering questions from reporters. All right, let's come back here at home. We want to get into a story that we've been following for the better part of a week, and that is the latest stabbing on Cat's Light Rail, the Blue Line specifically. So Mecklenburg County court records show a man who was the victim in that stabbing was arrested on Wednesday. Kenyon Dobie, 24 years old, faces charges of assault, serious bodily injury, assault on a pregnant woman, assault on a female, domestic violence, and 3 counts of communicating threats. As this news came out prior to this, we learned as we were digging into the stabbing on the light rail that Kenyon Dobie has a GoFundMe page. And it brought up some questions, some interesting questions in our morning meeting. Megan Bragg is here joining us, verifying. Speaking in general, right?
Yeah, especially because some people are wondering, what can he use that money for? Because now he has a $2 million bail. So people are just wondering if it's going to be used for what it was intended for, which was the medical costs associated to that stabbing on the light rail. So we went straight to GoFundMe, and we really dove into their campaign's rules and regulations and what people are allowed to do and not do. And basically, you have to be 18 or older to have a campaign on there. You can pretty much campaign for anything as long as it's appropriate. And you have to be the person who's in charge of it. Like you can't be, well, you can have someone else be like, hey, this person's sick, whatever.
Yeah.
But that money would go to the person who is in charge of it. And there are a few things so that we did look at on if that money has to go for the intended purpose. The intended purpose would be in the description or the title of where they're sending it to. He said his stabbing wounds, medical costs, that's what that would go for. And GoFundMe says if they receive the funds and they use it for a different reason, that violates their terms and services, and this can result in removal of the campaign, consequences to the person, possibly civil or criminal consequences, being banned from the platform, and donors are actually covered by GoFundMe site. So if if they want a refund, they
Yeah.
can fill out a form asking GoFundMe for the refund.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
You can get it? Okay.
Yeah. So I think they have that refund for up to a year of getting it back. There is a place on the website that you can go and request a
Yeah.
refund for whatever reason. So there are ways people can get their money back. I know that his GoFundMe is up to $109,000. He only requested $25,000. So well past his, goal, which
Yeah.
he could keep all that money. And
Yeah.
I saw too, someone on there donated $10,000 to him. So
Oh, wow.
there's a lot of people donating. And so he would have to use those funds for his medical costs.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. And again, you just don't think about it because we, from my memory, like GoFundMe, maybe
Yeah.
like a little over 10 years ago is when we really started seeing
Yeah.
these GoFundMe campaigns.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
you just don't think about it. You think the money's raised, you can use it for anything.
For
but,
anything, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it really has to go towards the intended purpose that you put it down for. So, I'm sure he's going to continue having issues, when you're hurt like that. So in the future, using
Right.
it for medical costs and stuff like that, absolutely. So that is what it's used for. Now, how do we know how they spend that money? I'm not really sure how they
How do you keep track of that?
investigate that. I'm sure that there could become claims and whatever, and then GoFundMe can look into that. But they didn't really get into detail on how they would investigate how they're spending that money. So that's the only caveat for it.
Interesting. When can folks check out your story? This
They
evening?
can check it out at 4:00 today.
All right,
Yeah.
Meg, thank you for stopping by.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Let's head back to the White House. White House press briefing is underway. Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, taking questions from reporters. Let's take a listen in.
President Zelensky's latest proposal that was sent over yesterday.
He's aware of it, yes. Ed.
Thanks, Caroline. The Fed chairman, the president says that he's interviewing candidates. So I just want to be clear. So the pick has not been locked in, and could we get an announcement before Christmas?
I know every business outlet in the world is just chomping at the bit for a scoop or something on this Fed chair announcement. I'm not going to get ahead of the president. I know there's been a lot of reports about potential meetings this week with potential candidates. Look, as always, this is a decision the president himself is going to make. And I know there's a lot of reporting out there from anonymous sources who claim to know something. I would wait and see what the president himself does and announces, and I certainly won't be the one to get ahead of him on that.
On the economy, can I ask you about it?
Michael, go ahead.
On the next Fed chair, does the president have an expectation that his pick will lower interest rates next year to his liking?
I think the president has been quite clear about what he believes the Fed should be doing, which is lowering interest rates. I know there was a quarter-point reduction this past week, and the president was pleased to see that, but he thinks more should be done. Philip.
Thank you, Caroline. On these advanced NVIDIA H200 chips, why is the president willing to allow China to have access to one of America's chief technological advantages?
Look, I will tell you just a couple of things. The president put out his own statement on this, which I do think highlights his exact thinking. What you see from the president on Truth Social is most of the time what you hear from the president behind closed doors privately. He told President Xi that NVIDIA will only be shipping H200 products to approved customers in China under conditions that will allow for continued strong national security. The administration continues to maintain a strict export control regime, and we are ensuring that the Blackwell chip and other advanced technologies stay right here in America, and these H200 chips will only be sent to China after undergoing a security inspection here in the United States. Elizabeth.
Thank you, Caroline. New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani put out a video recently telling immigrants in New York City they have the right to stand up to ICE. Are you concerned this will inspire New York City residents to resist ICE operations, and what will the Trump administration do if this happens?
The Trump administration is definitely concerned about the rise in violence, in attacks, and physical threats that we have seen against our brave men and women who wear the ICE uniform. Again, these are agents who are just simply doing their jobs. They are enforcing our nation's immigration laws, and we've seen more than a 1,000% increase in violent attacks on them and their families. They've been doxxed, they've been harassed, many of them have been physically assaulted and attacked. So we condemn that wholeheartedly. I know the administration has done a lot to protect our ICE agents, and the president stands firmly behind them in conducting these enforcement operations. And there's a lot of talk from Democrat politicians in New York, but the Trump administration will continue to do our jobs in every state, and that's to remove illegal aliens and public safety threats from American communities. Sure.
Thank you.
I'll go to the gentleman who's very eager, and then to you.
Awesome, thank you so much. Obviously, Jasmine Crockett, who the president has openly criticized, just entered Texas' Senate race. I asked Mike Johnson, who said that Texas largely supports the president. Crockett, on the other hand, says that Trump is an example of extremism. She says that her support is a referendum on Trump. I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. Has Trump made any statements since she's announced her candidacy?
Not to my knowledge, as you know from the White House podium. As a government employee, I'm not privy to comment on future elections, but I do think the president has made his thoughts on Ms. Crockett quite clear, and I do believe he thinks she is wholly unqualified for the office that she is seeking. Joey.
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. A federal judge today ordered the immediate release of Kilmar Abrego Garcia from ICE detention. Does the White House have a response to that, and does the administration plan to appeal that decision?
Absolutely. The White House, the administration opposed this activism from a judge who is really acting as a judicial activist, which we've unfortunately seen in many cases across the country. Abrego Garcia is present in our country illegally. He is a proven human trafficker. He is a proven gang member. The administration has evidence of that. And as you saw from the Department of Homeland Security, they issued a statement saying they'll continue to fight this legal battle in court. Caitlin.
Two questions. I have one on Venezuela to follow up, but first on affordability, since we were talking about the economy at the beginning. If the economy is as strong as as the president has said it is, then why is he telling parents 2 weeks before Christmas that they should only buy 2 or 3 dolls for their children?
Look, what the president is saying is that if we want products made right here in America, if we want them to be made from American small businesses, which is a large part of the reason the president has effectively implemented tariffs, then we're going to have better quality products right here in the United States. Maybe you'll pay $1 or $2 more, but you will get better quality and you'll be supporting your fellow Americans by buying American, and that's what the president was saying. Again, with respect to affordability, every economic metric, Caitlin, and I wish you would report more on it, does in fact show that the economy is getting better and brighter than where it was under the previous administration. I will repeat, inflation as measured by the overall CPI has slowed to an average 2.5% pace. Real wages are increasing, roughly $1,200 for the average worker. Gas prices are down in almost every single state across the country. Again, in 22 states, it's below $2.75. You look at the tax cuts, those are going to go into effect next year. So the best is yet to come. The president is digging our country out of the economic hole that the previous administration put us in, and that's what he's talking about.
It was a year ago, as you know, and grocery prices have been up. So we've covered the economy, but there's mixed signals in terms of what that looks like. But on
inflation is down from where it was. As measured by the overall CPI, it has slowed to an average 2.5% pace. This is down from what the president inherited. The president inherited 2.9% in January. Today it's at about 2.5%. So we're trending in the right direction with more to come. And I would remind you, when President Trump left office in his first term, inflation was 1.7%. And the previous administration jacked it up to a record high 9%. So again, in 10 months, the president has clawed us out of this hole. He's kept it low at 2.5%, and we believe that number is going to continue to decline, especially as energy and oil prices continue to decline as well.
It wasn't high under Biden. They're just saying it's not.
Well, nobody reported on it being high under Biden. My predecessor was standing at this podium, but now you want to ask me a lot of questions about it, which I'm happy to answer, but I will just add there's a lot more scrutiny on this issue from this press corps than there was. Well, and the previous administration said that too. My predecessor stood up at this podium and she said inflation doesn't exist. She said the border was secure, and people like you just took her at her word, and those were two utter lies. Everything I'm telling you is the truth backed by real factual data, and you just don't want to report on it because you want to push untrue narratives about the president. Go ahead. I'm not going to take your follow-up. Go ahead.
Is the White House optimistic about the upcoming redistricting vote in Indiana and what happens if it fails?
We'll see how the vote plays out. That's a political matter and frankly a legal one, and I won't comment on it here. Brian.
Thank you, Caroline. I'm going to go back to the Fed. I have two topics I just want to address with you. The first one on the Fed. The president did say yesterday that he was meeting with Kevin Warsh.
This is your favorite story in the world, Brian.
It is our favorite story. The president said yesterday he was meeting with Kevin Warsh to talk about the Fed chair.
All right, so we want to step aside from the White House briefing and take you to some breaking news in the Bay Area in California. This is a look from the NBC Bay Area Sky Ranger. All right, so this is in Alameda County, California. A major fire underway in the Bay Area. Firefighters battling a blaze in Hayward. That's according to officials there. So the fire was burning along Llewellyn Boulevard. The Alameda County Fire Department said earlier today. So people may have been injured, according to the fire department. Right now, not a lot of information, but you can see there, this looks like it's in a residential area there. It's hard to tell how many homes or structures were damaged, but this is
almost like, look at like if you look towards like on top of like the the little font on the screen, doesn't that like fence look like it's blown over? It might have been an explosion. Like, yeah, because it looks
like something out of a movie scene,
right?
Yeah.
We don't know. These are all confirmed. We're just kind of seeing what we say, but like
right now we see obviously firefighters are hosing down whatever flames are left, hot spots. We see a lot of white smoke, but we see a lot of damage. And as Carlene mentioned, looks like the damage is so bad it looks like an explosion.
Right?
And it looks like there's some equipment sort of trying to take away. Wow, you can see a car right there that has been damaged.
Debris, like everything, like it looks like it's in
a couple of cars, and it's hard to tell if this was one house, multiple houses, maybe a small complex. But those cars right there under the rubble, damage, obviously. One, you see that windshield crack. Well, all the windows cracked. That's why it sort of leads to believe that it appears to be an explosion. Again, that has not been confirmed, but again, what we do know, a fire there, major fire there, Alameda County there in California. That is in the Bay Area, a big scene there. You see firefighters blocking off, and I'm trying to, the camera keeps zooming out, at least a couple of blocks from our view, blocked off.
Yeah.
But man,
Look how many fire trucks there are. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
From this angle, I don't know, 5.
And so this is in Hayward.
Right.
Again, in Alameda County. Again, this is in, if you're familiar with the area, Llewellyn Boulevard, the Alameda County Fire Department on scene, trying to see if I spot any sort of other first responders there. But the fire department believes people may have been injured, and that's according to NBC Bay Area. They're reporting this. So again, limited information on what's happening or what happened here. You can see what is happening. Interesting because it looks like the home directly beside this wasn't touched.
Yeah.
So it looks.
I mean, it looks like some of the debris went over there, but
Yeah.
like the structure itself looks intact.
It's intact.
Fine.
Even behind it in caddy corner to it, it looks like everything is intact.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it, that's a scary situation. You're that close to.
I mean, you're right there.
Your entire street is okay. So you can see the house right to the left of it.
Look like maybe there's a little bit of damage.
Little bit of damage.
I mean, comparatively, this house
Yeah.
that we're seeing here is in smithereens.
Oh,
it's, It's torn up.
The entire structure
Right.
is gone. So it appears firefighters are putting out hot spots. We haven't seen any flames since we spotted this, but a rather large scene with debris scattered everywhere across the street. Obviously, right there on scene, fire trucks everywhere. That debris is actually scattered
Far.
like as far as like a block away.
Like a block away. Far. That's why I'm going to try and get maybe a map. So, I mean, our Bay Area correspondent is not here today.
Yeah, Jeb Goldman from the Bay Area.
So,
and there are firefighters right there. It looks like on a sort of like a roof area of where that structure
yeah.
may have been.
So,
okay.
I have a map here. So, this is you see the little red carroty thing?
That's
so kind of right here in like Bay Area, like south of Oakland, sort of.
And look, the Bay Area is a huge area. If you're not familiar, if you're familiar, then you're nodding your head along, saying, "Yeah,
you know exactly what it is."
Yeah, but again, firefighters are battling what appeers to be hot spots. It looks like the flames are out. We have not seen flames.
I haven't seen flames, and like as Jane always says, if you see like white-ish smoke, that means things are like. Getting better. It's not that black smoke that has obviously something that's flammable burning.
Yeah. So a big scene there. Again, we noticed one of the.
Oh yeah, we have a Bay person here.
We have a Bay Area person.
We got a Bay person. What's up, Sharif?
Okay.
So I will tell you, just looking at the screen, that looks like Llewellyn Boulevard. I don't know if you guys had that, but
yes, it is Llewellyn Boulevard.
It is okay. So super densely populated part of Hayward.
We could see that. Look how many
I mean,
close the houses are.
Yeah, it's not sort of Bay Area proper. Obviously, this is a little further south. If you're looking, this is I think Alameda County, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
It's been a hot second since I've been in that market.
Here's a mappy poo. Hold on.
Yep, there you go. So you can see like Oakland is straight up north, up the major highway there. It's right off the highway. On the east side of the bay, obviously, you can see it there on the map. It's kind of between Oakland and like even San Jose, maybe a little bit north of the midway point. But yeah, all of Hayward, I can tell you, is super densely populated. There's not really large stretches of unpopulous areas. It's one of those communities that is growing because it's a little cheaper, not quite as expensive as like Bay Area proper.
Okay.
Like a feeder community for Bay Area? Like
Kind
people
of.
commute?
Okay.
Kind of, that kind of thing. I mean, I know there's just the property values are generally slightly lower in that area. So it would be, it appears to be something like that. I checked a Twitter account for the fire department. I think they're calling it a possible house explosion.
That's what it seems like. I mean, look at the debris.
That is what it looks like. I mean, just like, and you called it out perfectly, Carlene. It's like the debris pattern is spread out. You can see it like everything is blown away from a central spot. So again, just based on what we and everyone else watching is seeing, it looks very much like that. Again, not confirmed like you guys have been saying, but that is kind of what it looks like from our eyes. But anyway, again, not Jeb, but little context.
Great context there.
Just a little bit of context for that area, because again, having worked there for 5 years, I
you know your way around.
I knew right away it was probably Llewellyn, just based on what we see from the
map again. Yeah.
Yeah, coming from North Carolinian and South Carolinian, we
don't know much about the Bay.
Vaguely familiar with the Bay Area. All right, so that camera shot going in and out. We'll continue to keep you updated on this story. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We want to get back to some breaking news that we're following there in California, Alameda County. According to NBC Bay Area, firefighters battling a blaze in Hayward. You can see the smoke there, that white smoke, and a rather large scene there. This is along Llewellyn Boulevard, and it is burning on the 800 block of Llewellyn Boulevard. That's according to the Alameda County Fire Department. The fire department says people may have been injured. Limited information on this, but again, this is still a very active scene. We'll continue to keep an eye on this and continue to keep you updated here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We want to get to some breaking news here in our area. The co-owner of Sycamore Brewing, accused of statutory rape and breaking into a teen girl's home. Here is the mugshot here. Here's what we have. The co-owner of popular Charlotte Brewery is now accused of statutory rape in Stanley County. Court records reviewed by WCNC Charlotte show that 44-year-old Justin Talls Brigham, who co-owned Sycamore Brewing, was arrested on Thursday, December the 11th. So today, he's charged with 3 felony charges: statutory rape of a child under 15 years of age, first-degree burglary, and indecent liberties with a child. The arrest warrant from the Stanley County Sheriff's Office said Brigham on Wednesday broke into a home and engaged in sexual acts with a 13-year-old girl. He was taken into custody on Thursday and appeared in court this morning. He was granted a $10 million bond. If he posts bail, he is required to surrender his passport, remain in North Carolina, have no contact with the victim, and must stay off social media. Brigham is set to appear in court on the 29th of this month. Sycamore Brewing's website states that Brigham co-owns the business with his wife, Sarah Brigham, and began brewing beer back in 2013. So we do have a statement from Sycamore Brewing in the wake of this arrest. So here's what we have. Again, this is on social media on their, I believe, Instagram page. It reads, "To our employees, customers, and partners, I am devastated by the charges against Justin and the pain this has inflicted in our family and others. Effective immediately, I am assuming full leadership of the company. Justin is divesting all of his interest and will have no further involvement. Our team remains my highest priority as a mom and a business owner." Sarah Taylor, owner. So that is his wife there, posting that statement on Sycamore Brewing's social media pages earlier in the wake of this arrest. All right. Again, that's breaking news that we're continuing to follow, and we'll have much more as it develops here on Live Impact News and on WCNC Plus and on WCNC Charlotte. All right, so let's switch gears for a moment. We want to head now to Utah, where Tyler Robinson, the man accused of killing conservative activist Charlie Kirk, is making his first in-person court appearance today. Let's take you there now.
Or clarify the publicity order, commonly known or referred to as the gag order. And finally, the motion for limited intervention and request for notice of motions to close, seal, or reclassify, and which has been filed by the media organizations and by counsel who are present today. So as we begin, the first part is we'll begin by addressing the October 14th audio recording and the October 24th transcript. This portion of the hearing will be closed so that I may hear from the parties regarding which portions of the recording, the record should remain sealed. All members of the public and the press will be excused, and the hearing will not be broadcast. This is because I need to hear what should or should not be sealed or protected, and it would not benefit to have everyone listen to what should be sealed. And so after I've heard argument, we will invite all parties, or the public and the media, to come back in, and the hearing will resume transmission. We will then take up the motion for limited intervention, followed by the state's motion to amend or clarify the publicity order. These portions. After hearing argument on all three matters, I will take a brief recess and then return to issue my ruling today. We will then stand in recess. So at this point, we'll go ahead and excuse the public and the media, and it is the court's order that transmission be terminated temporarily.
Your Honor, we have one request with respect to the closed hearing. May I be heard on that?
Yes, counsel.
Thank you. Richard Novak for Mr. Robinson. Mr. Robinson has some immediate family members who are present, his father, his mother, and his brother, and we would ask the court to permit them to remain in the courtroom during the closed portion of the hearing.
To the state.
My only concern with that, Your Honor, is that we're going to be talking about court security measures, and I don't know that we'll have to go into a lot of detail about that, but I do have concerns about those issues being discussed in public.
All right, Mr. Novak, do you have authority that supports allowing them to remain in a closed hearing?
No, I think it's subject to the court's discretion to decide who is and is not an appropriate member of the public. I think they have a unique relationship with Mr. Robinson, and they would certainly abide by any orders the court makes concerning disclosure of what is discussed in closed session, but obviously it's up to the court.
Thank you, Mr. Novak. I'm going to rule that they will be excluded as well. It is just given the nature and the sensitivity of it, I believe it is appropriate to treat all parties in the public equally, though I do recognize their relationship with Mr. Robinson. Thank you for your request. All right, we will go into the closed session. Thank you.
All right, so happening right now, again, Tyler Robinson, the man accused of killing conservative activist Charlie Kirk, is making his first appearance in court in Utah. They are not taking a break, but asking for media members, also the public, to step away. And then it will resume for the public and the media. So once that comes back, we'll take you back to this court appearance again in Provo, Utah. All right, let's get a check on the forecast, because it's gonna warm up and then it's gonna go back down. I always think about what I hear growing up: what goes up must come down, and that's true for the weather. Let's check in with Majestic Storm for our full forecast.
Well, good Thursday afternoon to you. I'm WCNC meteorologist Majestic Storm. It has been a very winter-like start to the day for our good friends out in the mountains. We had more snow cover the ground from the storm system moving through late last night, early this morning. We've been monitoring for those slick and icy spots across our mountain counties. Meanwhile, in and around Charlotte, it's a whole different story. Today, it starts out chilly for everyone, but we finally get the return of sunny skies. It is a beautiful start to the day. It's been beautiful as we're heading into these early afternoon hours. And here's a few things you're going to want to know as we're now heading into the later half of our work week. Sunshine returns even this afternoon in the high country. In the high country today, it was frigid, feeling like you're into the teens and low 20s. Cloudy skies, snowy conditions, that wind will eventually die down, and then sunshine returns. 40s and 50s both today and tomorrow. Saturday, we have a big warm up on the way with temperatures climbing back into the 60s. So if you want to do something fun this weekend and those plans take you outside, maybe think about doing it on Saturday, because we do have some changes on the way. Sunday night and into Monday, let me tell you, a blast of cold Arctic air is heading our way. It's going to drop our temperatures down to dangerously cold conditions by Monday morning. Let's start with still the good news, though. This is the rest of the day today. We'll have plenty of sunshine to look forward to. Again, temperatures temperatures will be climbing mainly into the upper 40s for most of us, with sunny skies late this afternoon and a few clouds pushing through as we're heading into the overnight hours. Let's take you up into the mountains because, again, this is where that cold air is really settled in. This morning it felt like it was around 15 degrees. This afternoon, highs will struggle to even reach that freezing mark. Around 31 degrees in Blowing Rock, 47 in Morganton, mid-40s out in Lenore. Sunny skies returning for our good friends out in Hickory as well. 49 in Gastonia, Lincoln 10, and then we'll look at about 49 degrees for our high temperature today in Charlotte. 50 out towards Monroe and 51 today there in Lancaster. Now we do have some changes on the way. Overnight tonight, a few more clouds start to push through the area. 20s and 30s, so a chilly start to our Friday morning, and this is what tomorrow looks like. So overall, pretty nice. A few clouds early in the day with more sunshine by mid-morning, early afternoon. But in the mountains, we could see a little bit more snow push through. So here's my futurecast about 5 o'clock tonight. Nice and dry. We shouldn't have any issues whatsoever. You can see nice clear conditions, but then heading into Friday morning, look at the mountains. Another opportunity for just a little bit of snow pushing through. There's 4 a.m., so if you're an early riser, you will be waking up to still snow-covered ground out towards the high country. For us, though, no snow in the forecast. Tomorrow, we're actually back into the 50s, so we're seeing improving conditions as we're looking at the remainder of our forecast. Sunny skies, get outside and enjoy it. This is what we're looking at over the next 7 days. Saturday is a day to enjoy, 60 degrees, because come Monday, look at that high temperature, 37 for our high. That's 18 degrees cooler than where we even should be. This is a blast of cold, bitter cold Arctic air. You can see it sweep through the south, and this is going to be that deep cold where when you wake up Monday morning, it is going to hurt. Temperatures will be into the teens, and those afternoon highs only rising really into the 30s. So Monday is going to be the day that you need to be ready for that big change with that cold, cold air on the way, even for the high country. 30s for most of us by Monday, but then again, we have another warming trend on the way. That warming trend again increases those temperatures to nearly 60 degrees by next week. Stay close to our weather team.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. All right, we want to take you now to Craven County. That's in eastern North Carolina in the New Bern area. We're happening right now. Sheriff Chip Hughes says Craven County murder suspect Dominic Conley has been captured alive. Let's take a listen in to what he's saying.
I believe the overwhelming majority of them know that we handled this properly and that we were not going to go away. We were going to continue our search efforts. So,
that deputy that
take
was
just
involved,
a couple more questions.
Has he returned back to work?
He
What's
has.
his current state?
He has. Yeah, in very good spirits. Yeah.
And how much money has been spent with all the resources used for this ongoing?
Yeah, that I do not know exactly, just because there were so many different agencies. I don't know the exact figure, but when you look at the resources utilized, we called in what we needed to accomplish the task. And the fact that he allegedly murdered his grandmother, I'm not as concerned at the cost of what it has taken us to bring him in for the family's sake. So if we had to do it again, we would do it exactly the same.
I've got two more. You guys have been out here day and night for weeks. What has that taken? What has that toll taken? And can you just explain how much effort you guys have put in as a whole?
Well, the thing about this is every day, we still have day-to-day operations of the Sheriff's Office, as does the SBI, U.S. Marshals, and every agency that was involved. We managed that really well. My people, I can only speak for our office, did an excellent job of not only continuing to monitor various types of technology, answer tips and calls that have still come in to this day about Mr. Conley, but yet still be very effective in all the other operational requirements that we have of the Sheriff's Office. So my people have done an outstanding job, and given the limited resources that we have to start off with, I'm very, very pleased with the outcome and everything the men and women in my office have done.
And is Conley expected to live?
Well, I mean, I'm not a physician. I'm gonna say I would expect him to live. Yeah.
And then is the decision, we have someone right now at the grandmother's house. Now, is it being torn down, that decision, is that up to you guys, or was that up to the family that was living in the house?
Yeah, I don't know anything about that. Yeah, as far as the grandmother's house goes. And one more.
Okay, so can it be 2 in 1?
It can be 2 in 1.
Okay, cool. The ANSI dog that was over here, was the canine also involved with the search for Conley?
The
dog that was whining over here?
Oh yes, yes, absolutely, yes. The dogs you see up here today, as well as other ones that you don't see, were very involved. Yes.
And when can we expect his first court appearance?
It could be as soon as tomorrow, or it could be Monday. That will be set by the DA, as he's the one that will be doing the arraigning. All right, I appreciate it.
Do you have a final, if the director wouldn't mind answering the question?
Director?
Yes, ma'am.
Director, you came down from Raleigh straight, did you, when you heard?
Yes, ma'am.
What is it like for you guys? You guys invested resources in this, so what is it like for you guys to hear the news when you came?
I was elated because I know what the citizens of this county have been, especially this particular area, and the resources and the personal weight of it that Sheriff Hughes bears when it comes to this and his staff. So for us to be a very small part of this is very rewarding, because I know what he hasn't taken a moment without trying to make this happen, without trying to make sure the citizens of this county are safe all the time. So with us being able to come bring the resources that are available that we have is quite rewarding on our part.
Thank you.
All right. I appreciate y'all being here, and we'll update things, obviously, as things progress, first appearances, that sort of thing. All right, appreciate y'all.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sir.
All right, so that is a press conference there in Craven County, giving an update on a murder suspect caught in eastern North Carolina. So Craven County man who was on the run for allegedly killing his grandmother was captured alive today. That's according to the sheriff's office. We heard updates there from the Craven County sheriff. All right, so we want to head now to South Carolina, where Governor McMaster, also state officials, are updating us, we believe, on the state's water plan. Let's take a listen in to what's being said.
Carolina has ever seen. The 2025 state plan dedicates an entire chapter to worst-case scenario drought planning to help South Carolina prepare for a potential devastating drought. Another key focus on the plan is water monitoring and planning for the future, which ultimately poses the question, do we have enough water to support South Carolina now and by 2070? The answer is yes, but only with careful monitoring, planning, and continued assessment and investment in our water resources. By the numbers, South Carolina currently uses about 5.9 billion gallons of water each day. That means we're consuming enough water each day to fill nearly 1,000 of Gaffney's famous water tower, the Peachoid. And that's just a snapshot of today. This plan sets the foundation for South Carolina to assess even more demands, as we know are coming, on its water supply. Smart management today protects our prosperity tomorrow. As we celebrate this milestone for South Carolina, we recognize there is much more work that needs to be done. Water planning never ends. That's why the state water plan is presented today will continue to evolve, and state water planning will remain a continuous process. In other words, the plan will be a living document, and the work of Water SC and the River Basin Councils will continue. Governor, I've heard you say many times South Carolina is a relationship state. We have to keep working together collaboratively and focus on additional elements of water planning. And many of these topics we covered in some of our discussions with the Water SC Working Group. Topics such as recognizing the interactive relationship between groundwater and surface water, and connecting water quantity with water quality. While we have been focused solely on water quantity, making sure enough water is at the right place at the right time, we need to also focus on water quality, making sure the available water is suitable for use. We also see opportunities to support beneficial water reuse, improve coordination with our neighboring states, and make education and outreach a priority. In short, everyone has a leadership role in South Carolina's water future. In closing, I want to thank so many people who have been part of this process and have been instrumental for us to make it to today and to complete this task. Beginning with all of the Water SC Work Group members, representing the participant sectors, including farming and agriculture, public drinking water, energy, industry, tourism, forestry, conservation and historic preservation, and academia. I also want to say a big thanks to the state agencies that have provided so much support as ex officio members of Water SC, Office of Resilience, the Department of Agriculture, Parks, Recreation and Tourism, DNR, and the Department of Commerce. I really appreciate how this dedicated group, and many of y'all are here today, have been so committed to the process. It was very time consuming, and have had meetings every month for more than a year to have impactful discussions about water use and water management. I also want to thank DNR. Thank you, Ken, for all of the work that was done before the planning process became our process, and also establishing the state's 8 river basin councils. Thanks to the RBC leaders, many of you I see here today, years of data collection and water management work put in by you have been important for our state and for our agency in updating this plan. And now, so Governor, on behalf of Department of Environmental Services, we want to present you the official copy of the water plan and the leadership guide. And, you know, you really did point out, you know, that this is a very technical document, and we wanted to really think about some things that would draw people to want to read it. And certainly they can go to that 181-page report, but they also can just pick up this leadership guide. And I think what this exemplifies is that we all have a story to tell about our water future, and that we all play a leadership role. And certainly you're the ultimate leader for our state. We appreciate what you've done establishing Water SC, and for us to finish and cross the finish line. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate all y'all doing the work. You really do need to take a look at this. You'll see things that you haven't seen in one spot. It gives you a comprehensive, easy to understand and be proud of facts, pictures that are. I hope we have some copies of this. We have some out there?
I think we have a few, and we also have this on our website, so we'll make sure that folks have that link and can, but if anyone wants a copy today and you can't get your hands on it, let us know. Laura Renwick is here with our communications, and we will be handing these out. They're fresh off the press.
Yeah, get you a copy of this. You're
Right.
gonna love it. Does anybody have a question?
Yeah, Governor,
Sir.
I have a question. This was a big effort, and there's a lot of information in this report. The one question I have, or one of the questions I have is, what do we do about this? Do we need to tighten the state's water law? It's been criticized to some degree over the years, and maybe not being strong enough. Depends on who you talk to, but what's your take on tightening the water law now that you have this information?
You go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I think there's several things that we talked about at Water SC, and certainly all the river basin councils for really 6 years now have been talking about the regulatory framework and all the other things that really are part of water resource management. And if you think about it, the laws that really guide us and have policies for us to follow moving forward is not only the Surface Water Act, but the Groundwater, the Drought Act, and now the Planning and Coordination Act. So we kind of look at it as a three-legged stool, and the cushion on that stool is the Planning and Coordination Act. So we're going to be, this is an opportunity for us, now that we have planning and permitting together, that we're going to look holistically at all of those laws. We want to not just look at surface water in a silo or groundwater in a silo or the Drought Act in a silo, but see how they interface, how they connect with each other, and try to look at a big picture as far as water resource management.
Anybody want to add something else to that? Anyone? Okay. Yes.
I'm curious, I know, like you said, this is a future plan, but I have a question about data centers. How does the water plan account for the growth in data center water needs across the state? And if you have any specific statistics on that, wrong.
Okay, I'll start that, and then Rob, if you want to add. But when this, the modeling started that really supports the scenarios that were run over the last 6 years, we were not really talking so much about data centers, right? So that's going to be, as we continue, I had mentioned that this plan it's a living document, and it's going to continue to evolve. And as our state continues to change rapidly, and we have new things we need to be thinking about, those will provide inputs into additional modeling in the future. Do you want to add to that, Rob? Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Myra. Yes, so data centers were not on our radar back in a couple of years ago when we were doing our water projections. However, we are continuously collecting more information. Currently, right now, we're hoping that the data centers are being put in an area where there is enough water and that there is enough electricity, and that will not be a burden. But we'll know more as these data centers continue to come to our state. But I believe our leadership is helping us understand where the right places for these are and how they'll interact. Will be something we'll be reviewing the next couple of years.
Obviously, there are a variety of pockets in South Carolina that are just moving population-wise. But is there any particular part of the state that your agency is most concerned about as it relates to the future of this population moving out of tax water?
And I think, and if you've got some specific, I think some of the major bodies of water, we're feeling pretty good right now. But one of the things that we really focused on, and it was one of the recommendations that came out of this work, are the interbasin transfers. You know, managing water resources is so complex. I mean, it's amazing all the different factors that you need to be thinking about. So they call it IBTs, interbasin transfers. That recently came to light just based on the growth in North Carolina and the need for them to increase their amount that they're transferring from one of our basins. And we have a lot of interbasin transfers within South Carolina. So not only do we need to really be on our A game, just understanding how much is being withdrawn, how much is, you know, how much rain, how much is being recharged back, but we need to be looking at all the amounts of water that are being transferred. And so certainly we're watching that area, but I know in the plan we had a few of the smaller areas of the state that were kind of pointed out as here's some that we're going to be taking a real close look. And I will say the great thing about water resource management, here again, you try to look at your options, looking at both surface water and groundwater. And when you have both options, you can really make sure that you're providing the water that's needed for those needs, and you can make sure that you minimize any impacts, whether it's surface water withdrawal or if they're going to aquifers and going to groundwater. You want to add to it?
She said everything. I remind y'all, back in, I think it's 2006, we had to bring a lawsuit against the state of North Carolina because they were doing an interbasin transfer, or attempting to go from one side of the out of the Catawba River, from one side of the ridge to the other. We had to go to the U.S. Supreme Court to finally stop that. So this is and they of course are growing greatly around Charlotte. But this study, this analysis, and putting it all in one place gives us a way to enter into asking those questions about where is the good place to put it, where's the bad place to put it, what's going to be the impact here, where is the water, when is the water, all of those questions. This opens the door to all those sort of questions so we can maximize our efficiency, not make mistakes, and continue to have South Carolina be a beautiful place, not only to work but to play.
I have one more question. Ask you about the water law, but generally, is there any?
All right, that's South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster giving us an update on the state's water plan. All right, let's take a step aside and go to break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We are continuing to follow a big settlement. NASCAR reached a settlement today of the bruising antitrust lawsuit filed against the Stock Car Series by two of its race teams, including one co-owned by NBA great Michael Jordan. I'm reading that from AP News. So we just got a statement from Hendrick Motorsports. That statement reads, quote, millions of loyal NASCAR fans and thousands of hardworking people rely on our industry, and today's resolution allows all of us to focus on what truly matters, future of our sport. For more than 40 years, NASCAR racing has been my passion. I believe deeply in what we can accomplish when we work together. This moment presents an important opportunity to strengthen our relationships and recommit ourselves to building a collaborative and prosperous future for all stakeholders. I'm incredibly optimistic about what's ahead. When our industry is united, there is no limit to how far we can go or how much we can grow grow the sport that we love. And again, that is from Rick Hendrick. He is the founder of Hendrick Motorsports, a big name, a giant within.
Yeah, one of the biggest.
Yeah, within NASCAR.
In all of motorsports.
Yeah. So,
period.
Yeah, you're right. And it sounds like today's settlement, which we're still parsing through what those details look like in that settlement.
Yeah, we still don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we do know that
2311?
Yeah, 2311. Thank you. And Front Row Motorsports reached this agreement.
Yep.
It seems to be a
everybody seemed to be smiles this morning when they walked out the courthouse.
There were reports of hugging and
handshakes.
So it looks like it's a good moment. Again, we haven't looked through what the actual settlement entails, but we have this statement from Rick Hendrick. Good tone in the statement.
It seems like, I mean, the consensus is like, we're glad it's kind of behind us, right? If you can read between lines, like, I don't think it's too bold of me to say, like, everybody's kind of like, can breathe again a little bit. It was very tense.
It was very tense. It got ugly at times over the course of this 9-day trial. So yeah, we'll get more information in the coming days, but we'll also have an update from Miles Harris at 5 and 6.
Right.
What's an update? He continues to get updates. We just got that statement.
And I imagine some of the biggies, I mean, some of the big names are going to be releasing statements as well. I mean, it's kind of rocked the sport a little bit. It's been this kind of like cloud over it. 2 months until the season starts. Right.
So it's right around the corner. It's a long season.
It'll come up so fast.
Yeah. It's
so
a long
quick.
season, too.
Yep.
Okay. Again, we'll have an update at 5 and 6 from Miles Harris. All right. So let's move on. Let's head to the Senate floor. So happening right now, we are hearing from senators. I'm sorry about that, Carlene. All right. So this comes as the Senate today rejected legislation to extend Affordable Care Act tax credits, essentially guaranteeing that millions of Americans will see a steep rise in cost at the beginning of the year. That is according to AP News. And remember, this argument, this point of contention was the main touch point of the government shutdown. That was the longest government shutdown in our country's history. Let's take a listen in to what's being said on the floor.
Chanting Allahu Akbar, make no mistake, this is part of the deep state's globalist agenda that aims to destroy this country through mass Islamic migration. Where's the outrage from the people in this chamber? I hadn't heard it. If we don't do something to stop this Islamic takeover of our country, we will soon be called the United Caliphate of America. If the previous administration prioritized protecting American citizens instead of inviting terrorists to our country, Sarah Backstrom may still be alive today. Thanks to President Trump, a travel ban has been placed on Afghans along with people from 18 other third world countries, including Somalia. And I've got a message to the immigrants from these Islamist countries. If you hate this country, refuse to go by our laws, and chant death to America, it's time to go home. There's a lot of good people that come from Middle Eastern countries and go by our laws and assimilate with our culture. But if you come here otherwise, it's time to go home. The Trump administration is also prioritizing the deportation of Afghans who are already here illegally. You know, I'm 100% behind President Trump's effort to rid of all the Islamists who hate our country, as I just previously said. Take advantage of the system when you come here. Don't defraud our government. Don't come here to try to destroy us. Assimilate with the Americans in this country to make our country better. We should be welcoming immigrants who are willing to assimilate with our culture and to contribute to our society. That's what we want. Being in this country is a privilege, not a right. If you're an immigrant coming to this country, you need to leave your old way of life and the traditions behind and come here and work with us. Unfortunately, many of the Islamists who are here are not doing that. They're doing whatever they can to turn our country into the third world hellhole that they came from. We are different. We want a great country, not a third world country. These foreigners don't understand what this country stands for. This country owes you nothing but an opportunity to succeed. It doesn't owe you a handout. Islamist immigrants come to this country with a sense of entitlement. And that's what this country is not about. We'll give you a hand, but not everything. They believe the American people owe them something, and we don't owe anybody anything. They take advantage of our system. If this is your attitude, we don't want you here. We want you to help this country become better. The Somali population in Minnesota, as we've been watching on the news for the last few days, is an example of a group that thinks they're entitled to take anything they want from the American people and force Americans to bow to their will. Somali immigrants in Minnesota were recently caught stealing more than $1 billion and counting from American taxpayers. Stealing. They pretended to be using the money to feed children or help people with autism, but really they were stealing. They were stealing the money and sending it to terrorists in Somalia, all proven. This is pure evil, and it's straight from the pit of hell. Terrorists are driving around in Toyota Land Cruisers in Somalia, bought and paid for by the American taxpayers. Fox News recently reported that members of Minnesota's Democratic Representative Ilhan Omar's inner circle, people working for her, were personally profiting from this fraud. Omar held at least one event at one of the restaurants named in the massive fraud scheme. And by the way, one Congresswoman, Omar staffers, has already been convicted for his role in the fraud. It runs very deep. All of this is taking place inside of Omar's congressional district, and she's doing everything she can to defend these Somalia criminals. These people were empowered by woke and clueless so-called Governor Tim Walz, whose government handed the funds to these Somalia criminals, turned a blind eye. For example, one of the scams run by the Somalia nonprofit disguised itself as a housing assistance program. Sounds great. The initial budget for this program was $2.6 million. However, the annual budget quickly increased to over $100 million due to fake billing and fraud. And whose money is that? The American taxpayers. There were red flags all over the place. Tim Walz had every opportunity to see this, investigate, and stop this fraud and corruption. Instead, he looked the other way. That makes him complicit. He should go to jail for this. Anybody else would. And now he's trying to deflect by calling those who are angry about the Somalian fraud racist. Sure they do. That's the word they always use. This has nothing to do with racism. Somali immigrants stole more than $1 billion and counting from the American taxpayers. Again, proven. That should make every single American's blood boil. Democrats invite terrorists from all over the world into this country. They let them steal our benefits, enjoy our schools, overrun our hospitals, vote in our elections, and then steal our tax dollars to send back to their home countries to fund terrorism. By the way, I've seen all of these woke Democrats like Omar calling Somalia a wonderful place. If it's such a wonderful place, why doesn't she move back? If Somalia is all that, why is the terrorist group Al-Shabaab murdering Somalian civilians by the masses? And why is the capital of Somalia considered to be one of the most dangerous capitals in the world due to frequent terrorist bombings, targeting killings, and ambushes? That sounds like a place no one would ever want to visit or live. Predictably, Somalians often flee their country, and woke Democrats welcome these often unvetted individuals with open arms to the United States through illegal programs. But they make no attempt to adapt to the way in our American lives. Instead, they try to turn whatever American city they are hiding out in into Somalia 2.0. Thankfully, the Trump administration is working around the clock to reverse the evil open borders agenda that was allowed to thrive under Joe Biden's administration. Look, despite what the woke media will tell you, President Trump is not anti-immigration. President Trump is incentivizing and welcoming immigrants into the country who are going to come here to contribute and assimilate and love our country like we do. That's what we're all about. And if that is not you, if they don't want to do that, again, we don't want you here. The Trump administration has worked tirelessly this year to arrest and deport millions of illegals brought into the country by the Biden administration. Patriotic Americans are thankful for the work with DHS and ICE of what they're doing to clean up our streets. If we don't take this threat seriously, more terrorist attacks will take place, more stories of third world Islamists defrauding our country and using tax dollars to fund terrorism against the United States will become commonplace. DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, released a report not long ago about the imminent threat of terrorism that is facing our country. It's here. The recent terrorist attack in D.C. may just be the beginning of Islamic plans to destroy this country. The 29-year-old psychopath who did this should be hung in the streets. We need to send a message to every terrorist hiding out in this country just waiting to attack. We're not going to put up with this nonsense. You will be punished to the fullest extent of the law if you commit violence against American citizens. It's time to wake up, and it's time for all Americans to speak up. This is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an American issue. That's why I raised hell when I heard the Islam Academy of Alabama was looking to build a bigger campus in Hoover, Alabama just last week. You know, I looked at their website. They openly admit that they teach the Quran. The Quran teaches that it is righteous to kill anyone who is not a Muslim. Think about that. The media is calling me a racist for calling this out. Radical Islam isn't a race. It is a political ideology, and it is a cult. So no, I'm not a racist, and people back in Alabama agree with me. I was proud to see hundreds of Alabamians show up to protest at the zoning meeting where the building proposal was being considered. I was asked about it, and I said the only place this Islamic Academy should be moving is out of Alabama and out of our country. We don't want that taught. Come here and assimilate with our laws. Go by our laws, nobody else's. As a result, this Islamic school withdrew their proposal. This is an example of what's going to take to defeat this poisonous ideology. This is an example of what we do not want to deal with. It's going to take all of us red-blooded Americans coming together and saying enough is enough. Europe has lost the war of immigration. It is no longer recognizable in a lot of the countries in Europe. Mass immigration by Islamists has ruined their way of life. They turned a blind eye, like we are at the moment, and are going to have to fight in the streets to get their countries back. It's coming. And that is exactly what's going to happen in this country in a few short years if we don't act now to save our country and our way of life. I achieved the greatest honor of my life this year, receiving the title of grandfather to Rosie Grace, my first granddaughter. And I want her to grow up in the same America that I had the opportunity and privilege to grow up in. If we don't stand up now, our grandchildren's future is going to be lost forever. We have to draw the line in the sand. You're either an American who loves this country or you're not. It is the job of the DOJ, the DHS, the FBI to arrest these people, these terrorists, these radical terrorists, and either put them in jail or send them home. Now's the time. We do not need to let the clock run out on us. Let's do not be Europe. Next year may be too late. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsterbrooks.
All right, so let's take a quick break. Again, that was a live look at the Senate floor. We heard from Senator Tommy Tuberville. Let's take a quick break. Excuse me. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We want to go back out to Alameda County in the Bay Area of California, where firefighters are battling a blaze from earlier there. We took you there live. It's on Llewellyn Boulevard. Let's take a listen into what officials have to say.
You guys let me know when you're in your show. You got a couple minutes? Oh, you're live. Okay. So go ahead.
All right, hello everyone. I'm Ryan Nishimoto, Deputy Chief of Operations with the Alameda County Fire Department. Just to give you a brief update of what we have so far, at 9:38 this morning, we were dispatched to the report of an explosion and a house on fire. Our first-aid crews did confirm that we had a house on fire and activated a first alarm and a second alarm assignment. Seeing multiple buildings involved, we moved it up to a third alarm fire, which includes about 75 firefighters or personnel assisting on scene right now. We also have mutual aid from other departments in the county helping to backfill our stations that are vacated while our crews are here. What we found right now is that it looks like 2 properties have been affected. There's about 3 buildings on those 2 properties that are significantly damaged. And then there's a property also adjacent to the 2 properties that suffered some minor to major damage onto the side that faces where the explosion or the fire occurred. We had 6 victims in this incident. All 6 were transported to hospitals, unknown of their status or their injuries. Right now, we're going to try and get the fire knocked down, the remaining remnants of it, and we're going to go in and do another search to make sure we're not missing anyone or seeing anything that hasn't been seen already. We'll have another update later today on this.
You mentioned 3 buildings. Were those residential buildings, or were they like out structures like garages?
2 of the 3 look like they're residential structures. The one in the back of one of the properties looks like a workshop with maybe a living quarters on top.
And when you said that last time you said that you were partially finished, is it completely out, or what are the things that you're still working on back there?
There's still some fire in the property to the back, which is that warehouse or that workshop that I just described. Once we get that out, we could get crews in there to search the whole area.
Can you tell us where the victims were transported?
I do not know where they were transported.
Were they all residents, or were some of them passersby,
Of the victims that were transported, I'm not sure who, but I believe that 2 may have been working for workers on the street level. I'm not sure though. I can't confirm that.
Do you know yet a point of origin of how?
No, we do not.
Do you know the causes related to
Unknown at this time.
Good afternoon, Sergeant Roberto Morales from the Alameda County Sheriff's Office. I'm the Public Information Officer. So, as the Deputy Chief said, our units arrived within a couple minutes from the Eden Township substation to help out and start immediately evacuating residents from this area. We've been assisting.
Vanessa Rufus here in the Live Impact News studio, taking over for Nick Sturdivant. You saw in the bottom right corner of the screen, officials just now filing in here in Charlotte, North Carolina. U.S. Attorney's Office, and FBI giving an announcement today regarding this latest stabbing on the light rail from this past Friday. Let's listen in.
According to the federal rules of criminal procedure. We first charged Mr. Brown by criminal complaint. A lot of you were here that day. He was subsequently formally charged by the grand jury in that case with committing an act causing death on a mass transportation system. Since we announced those charges here, Mr. Barnacle and I have met in person with Irina Zarutska's family. They are heartbroken. Our hearts go out to them. We think about them every day. We are committed to justice for her and for her family. And my team and I will not stop until we get justice for her and her family. But we're here to announce the second thing today as well. We're here to announce charges in the more recent second light rail stabbing on the Charlotte light rail system. Today, we filed federal charges against Oscar Solorzano Garcia. Mr. Solorzano Garcia is an illegal immigrant here in the United States. And not only is he illegally here, he has not been deported not just once before, he has twice been deported from the United States before. Now, coming back to the United States after you're deported is a federal crime. And it's a federal crime that doesn't just end in another deportation, it ends in prison time in a United States prison. Mr. Solorzano Garcia has previously been sentenced to 18 months for illegal reentry, but we have charged him again with illegal reentry, and we hope the border is more secure now than it was before. We have also charged him with a crime of violence on a mass transportation system. That's that section 1992A7 of Title 18. It's the same charge that we charged Carlos Brown Jr. with for his stabbing on the train. In a minute, Mr. Barnacle will give you a little bit more details about the allegations that we've made and how that crime came to be, at least as we allege it. But I want to say this. Everyone who rides the light rail is a victim of this crime today. People use the light rail because they have disabilities and they can't drive. They use it to get an education, which the expansion of the UNCC made extremely accessible. They use it to go to work or to return from work, like Irina Zarutska was. They use it to go about their daily errands, to go to the library, to go to the grocery store. They use it to visit family. And it is extremely important to me that people are not only safe on the light rail, but that they feel safe on the light rail, which is really just as important, because people should be able to go about their lives and enjoy the infrastructure that their tax money paid for without worrying about who's sitting behind them or who's down the rail car. You're probably not going to believe this, but my Christmas card last year was actually a picture of my family on the light rail. And the reason is because we took the light rail to Lowe's and we got a Christmas tree and we got on the light rail and took it home. And it was this great family moment because we ran into all these people. Everyone said, oh, you got your tree. It was this community moment that we have in Charlotte a lot. That's part of what makes Charlotte what it is this community that loves the city and enjoys what we have built here. Now this year I went to the same Lowe's to get my Christmas tree, but I brought a pickup truck this time. I did not ride the light rail. And that makes me sad. It makes me sad because you learn a lot on the light rail. I have a 4-year-old daughter. You encounter people on the light rail that are using the light rail for these opportunities that we talk about, that are using it to go to college, to get work, to obtain things that you could not obtain without that infrastructure in the city. And not only does she lose that lesson this year, but a lot of people in Charlotte are losing the opportunities that are brought by public transportation. And we've invested too much as a city to let that happen. The federal statute prohibiting violent acts on mass transportation systems exists for this reason. Those systems belong to the public. They must be safe, they must be accessible, and they must be free from violence. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure that is the case, at least here in Charlotte. I want to thank a lot of people today. First, I want to thank the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, our new Chief Stella Patterson, who has put an emphasis on violent crime, particularly in our areas where we congregate, like Uptown and public transportation. Her department quickly made an arrest here. And this is the second light rail that's been made practically immediately afterward, which is impressive police work. I want to thank the District Attorney's Office and Spencer Merriweather, who brought charges quickly and detained the defendant on state charges. I want to thank Immigration and Customs Enforcement for working across agencies to make sure people like Mr. Solorzano Garcia are not here to commit these crimes. And of course, I want to thank the FBI for a very, very quick investigation so we could quickly bring these charges, which we brought by criminal complaint today. We have built a world-class city here in Charlotte. There's no question about that. But that will all be lost if our residents and visitors alike do not feel safe when they go about their daily lives. But the federal government is here to make sure that those who use public transportation, those who rely on public transportation, can safely do so, and not just safely do so, safe when they do so, because everyone deserves to enjoy all that Charlotte has to offer. I'll now turn it over to Mr. Barnacle, who will talk a little bit more about the incident itself.
Thank you, Russ. Jim Barnacle, the FBI Special Agent in charge here in Charlotte and overseeing North Carolina. 2 months ago, I stood in this exact spot with U.S. Attorney Ferguson to announce federal charges related to the tragic murder of Irina Zarutska last August. Irina's family has publicly expressed their concerns upon hearing someone else was stabbed on the light rail. And our hearts go out to her family again. In this case, Good Samaritans rendered aid to the victim and gave CMPD officers a detailed description of the alleged attacker, which helped those officers arrest the suspect within minutes. The person charged in this crime, Oscar Solorzano Garcia, never should have been in Charlotte or ever been in this country. He had been deported twice. I'll detail his prior criminal history in a minute, but first I want to read from the criminal complaint about the night of December 5th. The first calls came into 911 at approximately 4:49 p.m. A witness told the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department Solorzano Garcia got onto the train at Scaly Bark Road, Carson Boulevard Station, and that he appeared to be intoxicated and was being belligerent. The witness went on to say The victim and Solorzano Garcia got into a verbal altercation on the 9th Street station and stated as the train began to arrive at Parkwood Station, Solorzano Garcia pulled out a long knife and a red sheath from the right side of his pocket, his pants. The witness said the knife was at least 12 inches long. They stated Solorzano Garcia stabbed the victim in the chest with a knife, then dropped the knife on the ground, picked it back up, then got off the train and jumped over a black chain link fence and ran up North Brevard Street. CMPD arrested him quickly, and our agents began working with their detectives. The FBI reached out to our partners at ICE and discovered Solorzano Garcia has a criminal history in the United States dating back to 2012. He's used at least 4 aliases. Here's what I can tell you about his previous encounters with law enforcement. In March of 2012, he was arrested by the Union City Police Department in New Jersey, convicted of robbery. In July of 2016, he was arrested by the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office in Florida for aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. Multiple police reports say he stabbed a victim multiple times with a knife. As in the United States of America in March of 2018, just by U.S. Border Protection, illegal re-entry in the Southern District of Texas.
Hey, it's Vanessa here, just checking in from the Live Impact News studio. I know we have some issues with this feed. We are going to work on our signal, but in case you've been just joining us within the last few moments here, we've been following brand new federal charges announced against Oscar Solorzano Garcia, who is the suspect in the latest light rail stabbing from this past Friday. Illegal re-entry into the United States, as well as crime of violence on a mass transit system. That last charge is the same charge that was levied against the suspect in the other light rail stabbing from back in August, DeCarlos Brown. And we heard authorities saying that this would call for prison time in the United States rather than immediate deportation. Looks like we got our feedback up and running. We'll get back to that now.
Across the United States. Here in this city, we are working with CMPD under the command of Estella Patterson, and we are supporting the initiative to reduce violent crime. And last week, she surged police to the Uptown area, and you'll have to talk to CMPD about the details of that. But I can tell you that the FBI's Violent Crime and State Streets task forces were out last weekend. And they worked cases jointly with CMPD, and we are pleased to announce today that we have referred 6 cases to the U.S. Attorney's Office here in the Western District of North Carolina, and those were 6 people that were felons in possessions of firearms. Of those 6 people, 2 stolen firearms were recovered. 1 firearm was being possessed by a gang member, and a firearm had its serial number scratched out. The weapon was altered. We've got a crime problem across North Carolina. There are many agencies committed to working federal crimes and to working state and local crimes. We met earlier this week with all the federal partners here in North Carolina. The State Bureau of Investigation also attended that meeting, and the U.S. Attorney's offices from North Carolina and South Carolina. And we talked about addressing violent crime and crime and the plight brought to us by drugs and the cartels. So we look forward to future collaboration and more arrests. Today, circling back to what we had, as U.S. Attorney Ferguson said, people should be able to ride this light rail. They should be able to go home from work. They should be able to go out to to town here. They should be able to get home each evening, and it should be safe and secure. And unfortunately, it is not. We had a terrible situation, and thankfully, we did not lose another life. That is all I have. Turn to Russ for questions, perhaps.
Sure, thank you. We're happy to take any questions you've got.
Mr. Ferguson, you everyone with Queen City News here in Charlotte. Earlier this week, the sheriff placed some onus on DHS because Mr. Solorzano wasn't caught up in the Operation Charlotte's web in the past weeks. Has DHS explained why he was not on that list of their detainees or pickups?
No, well, here's the thing about illegal immigration. There's no record of these people coming into the United States or being in the United States or where they are in the United States. So there's not a list of illegal immigrants we can go down and arrest them all, or we would do it. And that's why the CBP operation sometimes seemed a little hectic at times, because it is a very difficult crime to detect. And they didn't get Mr. Solorzano Garcia, but I certainly wish that they had, because we would have saved a very, very bad incident here.
Russ Hunter here
Hey,
with
Hunter.
Channel 9. We have heard that there could potentially be gang affiliation and ties with Mr. Solorzano. Can you speak on that? Are there indeed gang ties with him?
So this investigation is ongoing. There are some initial indications there may be a gang relation, tattoos and things like that that would be consistent with MS-13, but we have not confirmed yet whether there are any gang affiliations here, and that's the FBI is actively working on that.
And I know you spoke to the second question, the re-entry charge. He got past it once, I guess, with the actual charge of it. Do you think it's going to stop him this time? Or what needs to be done further?
Yeah, that's a great question. He did serve 18 months before and came back, so it didn't stop him that time. We're looking to get a much longer sentence this time, and I hope send a message with it. The other thing is the border is much more secure than it used to be, and so at the end of his sentence he will be deported, and if that border security remains, we are more confident that he will not re-enter the United States.
Casey Jones with WCCD. Yeah. So this is the second person charged with violence on mass transportation here in Charlotte, maybe in the last 100 days. So do you think it's time for city leaders to look at maybe closing the transit system, adding more barriers, more security for safety?
Yeah, I mean, it's above my pay grade on what to do as far as transit goes. I think transit has to be accessible to people. We have to have the trains, we have to have the buses. People rely on it to get to the grocery store, to get to work, to get to education. We have to have it. Should it be more secure? Absolutely, I think so. Whatever we're doing now is not working. We've had 2 stabbings, 1 fatal, and that's in addition to a bunch of other more minor crimes, relatively minor crimes, that happen on the light rail every day. And we've seen reports of people riding the light rail back and forth, using it as a mobile shelter. And I suspect a lot of those people are people that can't get into the homeless shelter or have been kicked out of the homeless shelter. So it's people that you really don't want on your transit system. Some of those people are banned from the transit system and still ride the transit system, as we suspect this defendant here was. So some enforcement on those as trespasses and keeping the really bad actors off the transit system would be helpful. I think enforcing tickets would be helpful and would probably pay for itself with the extra revenue if everyone's buying tickets. So I do think there are things that can be done, and I hope our city leaders are looking at that and will do it, and I hope when voters go to the polls, they will hold them accountable to do that.
Chloe from Spectrum News, you just mentioned that you're seeking a longer sentence than the 18 months. What kind of sentence are you looking for?
Yeah, so we have 2 charges here. It's the illegal reentry charge as well as the 1992 violence on a train charge. And at the end of the day, a judge will assess and determine the sentence based on a variety of factors, which includes criminal history, which will drive a sentence, as well as other factors specific to this defendant. The statutory maximum for the 1992 charge is life in prison. So that's what he is facing. Yeah.
Russ, your office often deals with the victims and their families in these 2 cases and other cases. What is it that city leaders or city officials who say they are trying to solve a problem on our light rail system, what is it that they may not be grasping of the impact that it is clearly having on citizens here?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think people are really starting to see the issue, but I think it's that these are not discrete crimes. And we have tremendous violence in this city, sadly. And there are violent acts all over the city. But when they happen on a closed-in rail car with closed doors where you cannot get off, that is a terrifying situation, and it's driving people not to use the infrastructure that as citizens they pay for. And I hope that that's what they're taking from this, is that we've got to do something, because citizens are entitled to use that train and feel safe doing it. So I hope that's the message they're taking.
Russ, when it comes to public transit, it's not just the light rail system that has a safety problem. We know that there's assaults and stabbings on the bus systems all the time, even shootings. There's been fatal shootings. So can we expect the federal government to take the same kind of tough stance on the bus system that they've been taking on the light rail system?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Casey. And it's not just the bus system, it's the special transportation system that handicapped individuals use as well. And yes, we're concerned about the whole system. And we have evaluated cases on the bus before, and some of those cases have different facts and have not been able to bring charges in them. But listen, if you are riding public transportation, I don't care if it's a bus, I don't care if it is a train, I don't care if it's a special transportation vehicle, I don't care if it's a stop. We're going to look at that case and we're going to hold you accountable at the federal level because it's not working at the state level. And so buses are no different to me. Buses are a little better because you can stop the bus and open the door and let people off. In this case, the doors were closed and Mr. Solorzano Garcia was on the train with those people for minutes. And thankfully, he didn't do any other violent acts. But this is the second. I really terrifies me to think about what the third could be.
Russ, do you think, Katie Soul of WBTV, do you think there needs to be stricter weapons enforcement, more security? We were out talking with riders this week who said the CATS contract on a marketing firm they feel should have been put towards tighter security enforcement, whether that's more officers or some sort of screening. What do you think needs to be done to stop people from walking on the light rail with an alleged 12-inch knife?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, the light rail sells itself. I don't think we need a PR system to sell the light rail. It has been a tremendous success in Charlotte. It will not sell itself, and no PR firm in the world will sell it if people don't feel safe riding it. So I absolutely think we need stepped up security. We need people looking for people who have been banned before. If you've been banned from the light rail, you've been banned for a reason. They don't go around the light rail banning people here and there. They ban you because you've done something on there and you should not be on the train. So extra security should be enforcing those bans. If there was an officer on that train when this happened, I think this incident could have been avoided. Because Mr. Solorzano Garcia got on, allegedly inebriated, causing trouble, causing a ruckus for everyone on the train. This victim, we allege, stood up to him and ended up stabbed. But if security had been on the train, they could have kicked him off before it rose to that level. So I absolutely think that would be a step in the right direction. Thank you, Katie.
Russ, to put a bow on this,
Yeah.
When we were here 2-ish plus months ago, I think a lot of people were saying this was a one-off case. Now that we're here all over again, do you believe the transit system is safe?
Yeah, I wish that were a one-off case, and I was one who thought that as well, and couldn't believe we had a second stabbing, especially after there's been some attention and some stepped-up efforts here. So, is the light rail safe? I told you I didn't go on it this year to get my Christmas tree. I don't know if the light rail is safe. It probably depends on what car you're in, what time of day, and where you're going. But what I can tell you this, it doesn't matter to me. It matters, but what matters more than if the light rail is safe is if the light rail feels safe. Because safety is one thing, but if you don't feel safe riding the train, going to the train, getting on the train, you're not going to ride the train. And that is a whole lot of infrastructure we have invested in for nothing. And I don't think the light rail feels safe at this moment, but that's why we're doing this. That's why we're bringing these charges. We want people to feel safe on the train, and we are not going to rest until they do.
Jim, I have a quick question with the 6 arrests, if you don't mind. Can you just expand on, were all of those arrests from the weekend in Uptown during that operation?
Yes, so CMPD had an operation in Uptown of arrests that they made. 6 were adopted for federal prosecution. So the FBI had a half dozen agents out this weekend as part of our support for the operation. We also had task force officers out. And so we're looking as the local police, CMPD in this case, identify crime. They do whatever, they make arrests, they made all kinds of arrests, whether it was DUI, but some things elevated to a higher level, and felons were identified possessing of firearms. So those are the cases we're looking to adopt, right? Where there's a possibility of a federal charge. As you know, the majority of criminal activity is a violation of state law, but is not a violation of federal law. And so where we can come in is felons in possession of a weapon. That is illegal. We can work that. Gangbangers, if they're part of a gang, we can work that. Transnational organized criminals, cartels, and then mass murder. And thank God we don't have any of those. but those are the federal crimes. So yes, all 6 were in Uptown, all felons in possession, and some were a little worse than others, and we have turned those over to the Western District, and then it is now out of our hands. Western District will make charging decisions on those.
Special Agent Barnacle, you have your agents out on the streets. You know, a lot of people say that they don't feel safe in Uptown. What message do you want to send to the citizens about what you all are doing, and a message to criminals too?
Yeah, so our job at the FBI, our mission, is to uphold the Constitution and protect the American people. So that is what we are out doing. We are going to support local and state law enforcement. In some cases, we're going to supplement. We do not have enough agents or enough resources to work every single case that happens. So we're going to prioritize cases, and we're going to look for areas where there's hot spots, there's crime problems, there's gang problems. We're going to have initiatives where we go and we focus on certain crime problems. So our Coast to Coast initiative is focusing on violent crime across the United States, but here in this state, we're looking at the urban areas and some of the more country areas where we're seeing gangs and we're seeing an increase in violent crime. We're going out, we're working with state and local police. So basically, your FBI is committed to identifying criminals, conducting logical investigations, making arrests, and referring these cases for federal prosecution. And the idea behind federal prosecution is the sentences are stiff, the bad guys go away for a long time. What we see at the state level, not just in North Carolina, but we see people go in to the system and they're back out on the street, sometimes the same day, sometimes within a few days, or very short sentences, and guess what? They're gonna repeat the crime. They're recidivist criminals. When we have 6 felons in possession, they've already been convicted. They already know they're not allowed to carry a weapon, but here they are doing it time and again.
And just for clarification, for the charge that Mr. Solorzano faced in Hillsborough County for the aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, was he convicted of that and served time for that, or was it the time for the illegal reentry?
So, separate.
Okay.
So he served time for the illegal reentry. The Hillsborough, we know he was deported. After that, we don't know the status of whether he was convicted or not.
Okay.
So we're still looking into that.
Couple more questions. I just have, mine's sort of a clarification question on this too. I see where there's ICE numbers, FBI numbers for New Jersey, Florida, North Carolina. Is the North Carolina number this case specifically, or does he have other instances where there's been run-ins with him in the state of North Carolina previous to this?
It's this case specifically.
Anything else? Well, thank you guys so much for covering this, for being here. I really appreciate it. The media plays a huge role in making people feel safe again on the light rail, and that's what we're here to do, so I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, folks, there we have it. A big announcement just a few moments ago from federal officials. We've got the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of North Carolina. They are talking about these new federal charges against the suspect in the latest light rail stabbing, Oscar Solorzano Garcia, a man they say was not legally in the United States, had been deported twice before, and is now facing federal charges, which they say would essentially call for him to serve time if he were convicted in the United States and then be deported. The 2 new charges we're seeing: illegal reentry, given the fact that authorities say that he has been deported multiple times before, and also crime of violence on a mass transit system. And if that charge sounds familiar to you, this is the same federal charge that was levied against DeCarlos Brown Jr., who was the suspect in the prior light rail stabbing, the one from back in August, which took the life of Irina Zarutska, the Ukrainian refugee who had sought a new life here in Charlotte. We, of course, are going to have much more for you throughout the evening here on WCNC Plus. Our team is digging through brand new court documents as well. We'll be looking into different angles, too, of this latest stabbing situation because, quite frankly, it sparked a lot of conversation, but there are also lots of layers to this. We have all of the saga that is around Oscar Solorzano Garcia. We've also, breaking news last night, had for you the victim who was stabbed in this latest case, who actually has now been arrested. Police say on a prior incident that is unrelated from back in October. We've dug up court documents on that. And apparently once the stabbing victim in that case was released from the hospital, Kenyon Doby, he was arrested on these warrants from back in October, one of the charges being assault on a pregnant woman. There was a domestic violence charge, and there are other assault-type charges and threat-making charges that were on this laundry list of this warrant that we saw. So we have another crew that is just working on that layer, and of course the overall topic as well of crime and safety and how safe do folks feel in Charlotte, in particular Center City, which we talk about, has been seeing an uptick in violent crime recently. So we've got team coverage on this for you. Stick with us here on Live Impact. We'll have much more for you after the break. And once again, stay with us through the evening newscasts as our team coverage continues of this very important topic. We'll take a quick break, folks. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Stick with us. All right, folks, thanks so much for sticking with us here on Live Impact News. I'm Vanessa Rufus. Want to turn now to a live feed we've been watching for the last several moments here. This is coming to us from the Senate, a variety of topics we've been seeing in the last few moments. Let's go ahead and listen in. We know they've talked immigration, healthcare. We know that's a huge topic right now in Congress. And we also know at some point the Senate could be poised to talk about this defense bill, which we know passed the House yesterday. We heard the NTSB railing against very strongly over their concerns with a provision in this defense bill, essentially rolling back safety provisions that were put in place after that mid-air collision back in January, which killed a Charlotte-based flight crew among dozens of others. Let's listen in.
Companies aren't complaining. No costs, no services provided. It all falls to the bottom line profitability of the insurers when this happens. The solution to this floundering system, created by the Democrats without a single Republican vote, is certainly not what Democrats have proposed today. They want to continue wasting Americans' hard-earned dollars. Earlier today on the Senate floor, there was a stark difference of views. On one side, Senate Democrats proposed a 3-year extension along with the repeal of anti-fraud provisions that we passed during the Working Families Tax Cut. More fraud, more waste, more ill-obtained profits for insurers. This unserious partisan proposal would cost a whopping $83 billion and would not lower premiums for 93% of Americans by a single cent. I oppose that effort. Instead, Republicans are offering real solutions that will lower benchmark premiums by 11%, save $30 billion by appropriating cost-sharing reductions, and empower patients to make their own health care decisions. There are further Republican solutions being debated right now, solutions that add serious fraud protections and ensure that wealthy Americans are not receiving taxpayer subsidies. Solutions that ensure no federal funds are used for abortions, that ensure illegal immigrants aren't accessing these credits to free ride and overwhelm the American healthcare system. I hope my Democrat colleagues will stop playing their political games and begin to work with Republicans to actually lower the cost of health care for the American people. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.
Ms. Also Brooks.
Mr. President, request that proceedings under the quorum call be dispensed with.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the privileges of the floor be granted to my intern, Rachel Shaw, for the month of December 2025 in the 119th Congress.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's been a lot of discussion today following the votes on the floor this morning about health care and health care costs. It was just about a year ago exactly. It was just the 12th of December last year. I spoke to a reporter from Alaska, and we were talking about the just staggering costs of health care costs and what we were seeing with the rise. And at that time, I pointed out to this reporter that Alaska had already seen 3 years of premium increases that exceeded 50% in total. This was putting a pressure on individual and household budgets in a way that people were telling me this is an unsustainable trend. And I said then that we're going to have to address the issue of the enhanced premium tax credits at the federal level. We're going to need to address the fact that these come to an end at the end of this calendar year. And I said then, we've got a year to kind of figure this out, to buy time to pursue what I feel are important, and that is the true reforms, some of the long-term reforms that will not just help us address the cost of health insurance, but more importantly, the overall cost of health care in this country. That's the driver there. That's the problem. So that was about a year ago, almost exactly a year ago. And yet, here we are. Little has changed. Key transparency legislation remains stalled. Too many Alaskans are facing premium increases that are now approaching 500%. Think about what that means. I've shared with some colleagues a text that I received from a friend of mine in Fairbanks, and she and her husband will be looking at the potential for premiums in the range of $36,000. There's nobody that I know of that can afford premiums for $36,000. So we know we've got a job here in the Congress. We know that we have to address this issue of rising cost to health care. But what we're facing right now, literally on this 11th day of December, the immediate issue is this expiration of the enhanced premium tax credits and this cliff that is in front of thousands of Alaskans, about 24,000 Alaskans, millions of Americans are facing this. So this morning, we saw what we saw. The Senate voted on 2 dueling health care proposals to address this cliff. Both proposals were partisan in nature. Neither one was written in a committee setting or reported through what we refer to as the regular order process. And unfortunately, neither really included any attempt at compromise. Neither tried to gain the support from the other side or to address perhaps the very valid concerns that were raised by the other side. And so it's no surprise that we are where we are, which is 2 failed votes on the Senate floor. And those measures failed. But Mr. President, I would just suggest that we have failed. We have failed, this institution here in the Senate. We failed to work together. We failed to reach consensus. We failed to help all those who are facing these shockingly, completely unaffordable increases in their health care premiums as they're looking at the new year. We voted on a Democratic proposal as part of the agreement that allowed us to reopen the federal government after a record-setting but ultimately a pointless 43-day shutdown. And the headline of that measure was that it would extend the current subsidies for 3 years. Unfortunately, there is no recognition of the much-needed reforms. 2 speakers preceding me both pointed out there are flaws in the existing system. If we're going to be addressing a program and a continuation of it, I think it's our responsibility to make sure that we're making sure that these programs don't have waste, that they are not being abused. But we also voted on a Republican proposal which would have pre-funded health savings account. This is something that so many Americans are very familiar with, but it would allow for Americans to receive dollars more directly in their hands, to go in their pockets for their own care, while also funding cost-sharing reductions, projected to reduce premium costs down the line, and some other provisions. But it was good work by the chairman of the Health Committee, as well, working with the chairman of the Finance Committee, and I was encouraged by what we were beginning to see there, but there were flaws, quite honestly, with that approach as well. So where did I end up? I ended up voting in favor of the motion to proceed to both of these proposals. But I want to be clear here. It's not because I fully endorse the Democratic proposal and I fully endorse the Republican proposal. Neither of the proposals, in fairness, met the challenge as far as I'm concerned. The Democratic proposal would have extended the status quo under the Affordable Care Act, which, as we have heard, has failed to restrain costs, and it's done so for longer than necessary to build the stability that I think we need to develop better policy. And more importantly, it included no reforms whatsoever. And we have seen examples of how the system has been abused. And as stewards of federal taxpayer dollars, it's incumbent on us to address matters like that. And so making sure that there were legitimate reforms, making sure that we don't set up another cliff, just like we would have done under the Democratic proposal. You just set up another cliff in 2020.
All right, folks, and you're hearing once again from Senator Lisa Murkowski, the Republican from Alaska, speaking on the health care debate we see ongoing in Congress. And we know that there is some anticipation over potential voting on something healthcare related. And I say that in the sense that there's been a back and forth between Republicans and Democrats. Democrats have long talked about wanting the extension of these ACA subsidies, or Obamacare subsidies, if you will. Republicans, some pushing back, but there's also a separate measure that we just saw unveiled yesterday, which is more bipartisan and would have an extension. So we'll just see where this conversation goes. Meantime, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in 2 minutes to continue the discussion back here in the Charlotte area over safety, and also questions that we're seeing and topics related to immigration. And so stick with us. Back in 2 minutes for more of that dialogue, a sit down with Mecklenburg County Sheriff Gary McFadden. All right, folks, welcome back to Live Impact News. In case you're just joining us, we've been following some breaking news this hour as new federal charges have been filed against the suspect in the latest light rail stabbing, Oscar Solorzano Garcia. They are including illegal re-entry into the United States and violence on a mass transit system. This last charge that I just mentioned, the same charge that was levied against Carlos Brown Jr., the suspect in the prior light rail stabbing from back in August. And we're seeing this kind of on the backdrop of a larger conversation about immigration in some cases, as this latest suspect in the case from the stabbing back on Friday is accused of being in the country illegally and also having been facing prior deportations as well, according to authorities. We also know that the light rail situation in general has sparked attempts at change with Arenas Law, which is now in effect here in North Carolina, which is leaving a lot of local agencies trying to figure out how to implement all the requirements with what some agencies are saying is a lacking of resources. So Mecklenburg County Sheriff Gary McFadden has been pretty outspoken on all of these topics. Recently sat down with our Jane Monreal to talk about this here in the Live Impact News studio. Given the big news of the day, we want to take you back to that right now, and we do urge you to stick with us. We're going to have at 4 o'clock team coverage of this light rail stabbing saga. I say in the sense that there are multiple layers, multiple angles, and we'll just mention too, we'll have the sheriff back on shortly to talk about any updates in any of these topics, and we'll have these conversations. We'll continue to have this coverage for you here on Live Impact in the coming days and weeks. So with that, let's send you now to this prior sit down with Mecklenburg Sheriff Gary McFadden.
Good morning. Mecklenburg County Sheriff Gary McFadden is in the Live Impact studio for a conversation that really comes at a critical time for our community. Just last night, we reported that some of the concerns now 1 week into Arenas Law, there's an 18% jump in jail population, strained resources, a detention center struggling to keep up, and add to that the conclusion of Operation Charlotte's Web. We have the ongoing federal immigration operation enforcement and the recent tragic loss of one of his officers. Sheriff McFadden joining us here this morning. He's been candid about some of these challenges, and today we're going to dig right into it. Sheriff, thank you for making the time.
Thank you all for having me.
It has been 1 week since Arenas Law took effect. Last night, again, we reported the 18% increase in jail population compared to around this time last year. What's happening inside the facility right now?
Well, we're preparing for the holiday season. Most people know that the numbers do go up during the holiday season, but they also go up just because there is a lot of mental stress. And what we mean, people are stressed out. Wives and husbands are filing for evictions and divorce and everything else, and that causes a lot of controversial issues in the home. Domestic violence goes up. Believe it or not, December 1st, we, the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office, evicted 198 people from their homes. And so all of that comes into contrast to what happens inside a detention center. And all these people come in. And so when the people do come in, there are poverty-stricken, homeless, and with a lot of anxiety. So a lot of stress goes inside the detention center when people are arrested. And we don't think about that. We just think about the violent criminals, which also brings another avenue to us.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yes, there are so many things tied to this, right? Mental health, last Friday's stabbing, the second in less than 4 months since Irina Zarutska lost her life. So when we talk about mental health, let's just go there for a minute, because your mental health director did note that some residents won't engage with treatment, even though that is clearly something they need and something that is out there. It is a resource, isn't it?
It is. You have to say that, a lot of the regular person, will a husband talk about what he went through as a child? No. Well, the wife would talk to the husband about what she went through as a child. And so they're not open for those those conversations. So when they're coming into the detention center in the middle of a crisis, because the crisis is their criminal charges, then you want to talk to them about their mental state. They may be reluctant to do that, and then all of a sudden they get inside the pod or the housing unit, and they become immersed inside to that world, and then they won't talk about their mental status. So it's very hard to make people open up and let's talk about their mental capacity and their mental problems. So that is a battle in itself. But the ones that we do take care of, we're happy to take care of them.
Overcrowding an issue, and you said that or your major did say that it reduces efficiencies, raises the risks of incidents. What kind of danger are we talking to staff, to residents in the community?
Well, I think people do not realize what we have to work with each and every day. There's probably 1,600 people inside a detention center at this time today. Think about this. So that is 1,600 people who have been charged with violent crimes and behaviors. So 1,600 people being housed in one building. That is like taking the Marriott downtown and put everybody in who's homeless. And then how do you combat that? So inside our detention center, there are 1,600 people that have allegedly committed a crime, and we have to deal with them. And most of those are violent criminals, and so, or alleged violent criminals. And so we have to tackle that mentally. So our staff will be mentally stressed because now we're going to be inundated with all the people that are not released because of the new law 307, that we're now going to house them and take on that aspect of mental health. So when you're talking about danger, imagine that.
Let's talk about House Bill 307. You've been quite vocal about it. And what do you believe what are the challenges that House Bill 307, let's start there. I know you've said it before, but just to get people caught up.
The main challenges is funding. Imagine creating something that you have to work with, or you are mandated to do, and they created this bill with no funding. When we say resources is a very loose terminology that most people use. But what about having staff, having the resources to hire more staff to deal with the people with the mental challenges? My staff is probably better than most of the staffs across the state, and here's why. In 2019, we created the first behavioral health pod inside a detention center in the state of North Carolina in 2019. In 2020, we again created another pod just for women. So we had a pod for men and we had a pod for women. 2022, we created what they call the RISE program, restoring individually, safely, and effectively back to society. And what does that mean? People are inside our detention center are waiting to go to trial, but what they call incapable to proceed, ITP, incapable to proceed. What does that mean? That they cannot assist their lawyer in their trials. So we're restoring these individuals back. That was in 2022. Fast forward, 2025, the state of North Carolina, Department of Human Health and Resources, came to us and says, Sheriff McFadden, since you have done so well, can you help us a little bit more? So we divided the state into three parts. I am what they call the Western District. So 36 other sheriff's offices can send people to me, the Mecklenburg County Detention Center, to be treated for mental health issues. 36 other counties. It's only 100 counties in North Carolina. On my way to this interview today, I spoke to my legal staff. Another county outside of that 36 would like for me to be able to receive their people from their detention center. So now that burden is on us, and think about this. That is being paid for, but the additional people are not.
The Post-Release Resource Center, is that what we're talking about?
No, the Post-Release Center is a whole different animal that we have. The Post-Release Center is for people who are re-entering society and needing help that they normally do not get. So when we found that gap in our system, we created the Post-Release Center, and that's helpful. The RISE program is separate from that.
Okay, and the RISE program is funded?
The RISE program is funded by the state of North Carolina, yes.
All right, so when we talk about resources and lack of resources, what does that mean to you? What do you need? What is the dollar amount?
Dollar amount I couldn't tell you, but staffing, I would say staffing, and we look at housing people at $198 a day. So you think about that. On top of that, and fast forward and kind of mix this up a little. So imagine the immigration issue that we're talking about. We now, because of House Bill 318, we now have to again hold people 48 hours longer than they were supposed to be. What do we mean by that? After they have met all the conditions of their release, now we hold them an additional 48 hours for ICE to come and pick them up. That additional 48 hours is costing the taxpayers of Mecklenburg County $398 per stay. That is not funded. Another House bill that was mandated by the lawmakers in Raleigh, that is not funded.
When it comes to House Bill 318, you turn them over, like you said, 2 days, 48 hours. Does this also conflict, or how do you reconcile with you trying to build relationships with the immigrant community?
Well, we're doing a great job building the relationships no matter what they're doing, because we've always built a great relationship and had many conversations with the Latino community during the crisis, after the crisis, and even as of today. So we're still going to build that bridge, and we're confident that we're going to keep, our relationship with them. But when you have what we call the word salad, and that's my new word, the word salad, that you mix the words up and make people believe that you can't do this or the sheriff is not doing that. For instance, they're saying, well, with the person with the new light rail stabbing, we don't know if the sheriff is going to hold him. Well, that's incorrect, because House Bill 318 mandates me to hold that person, to also include North Carolina General Statute 162.62, which mandates every sheriff in North Carolina to cooperate with ICE. So when we have these word games, it confuses the public, and that brings a lot of anxiety and mistrust also in the community.
All right, so let's clear it up. You actually say that you are obeying everything that you need to, mandated by ICE and the federal government, right?
Absolutely. I can tell you this. You will never hear a lawmaker or any lawmakers or ICE or DHS says this: Sheriff McFadden is not following the law. They will use the word cooperation because they want me to do something that is not is outside of the law. If a federal judge or a magistrate or a state judicial official has not signed a paper, then it is not legally my book. And then he could do this, he could do that, but what they use is the word cooperation. We're looking for the same cooperation that we never get. And so where's that? We don't talk about the cooperation that we're not getting, but we are following the law. You will never hear, the question should be this: is Sheriff McFadden following the law? And stick with that question. Is he following the law?
Irena's Law, 1 week in. You said at yesterday's conference, lawmakers in Raleigh didn't communicate with your office before putting this law into place. That's a pretty significant oversight. What did you need to know in order for this to be implemented?
It's not much we need to know. We just want to have a seat at the table. Have a seat at the table, have your voice heard, and they may find something that they didn't think about. The same thing with the House bills. When House Bill 10 was created, it's not that I found a loophole, I found a misstep. And so then after that misstep, they created House Bill 318. The same thing with Irena's Law. You're always saying is, please come and talk to us, get our opinion, get our facts. And they will always use a good person, Mr. Eddie Caldwell, great guy, our executive director for North Carolina Sheriff Association. Have no problem with him. But the problem is, that is their fall guy. They said, well, we talked to Eddie Caldwell. Well, I think that you need to talk to the sheriffs who are actually housing these people and who are in these counties. Surely, talk to Mr. Eddie Caldwell, have him at the table, but have your largest county sheriffs at the table also. Every major city, every major county in North Carolina should have been at that table, because these are the counties that are going to be mostly affected. Sure, they can say, well, we talked to the other counties, they don't have any problems. Well, if your housing is is only 200 to 500, then you really don't have a problem. Mine is a 2,000 to 3,000 facility, and we have 1.2 million citizens. That is a significant change in some of these smaller counties. So sure, they may not have the problem. Well, ICE didn't go to their counties either and raid their counties. They came to Mecklenburg, Wake, and Durham.
When you turn someone over to ICE, do you know what happens to them? And do you see them back in the detention center?
We do not, and that is another problem that we are having currently. So as of the law stands now, House Bill 318, ICE can take custody of these individuals within the 48-hour period. Now think about this. They are taking people out of state custody with state charges pending. And so what happened to those state charges that are pending? Well, they can be dismissed by the district attorney's office, or this could happen also, which I have many cases to show.